in 2004, ending a co-governing agreement between the IFP and the ANC since 1994. Dries Liebenberg reports.
Premier Tami Ntuli is expected to provide an overview of the steps the provincial government intends to take to enable KwaZulu-Natal's economic recovery. The improvement of service delivery, as well as fighting crime and unemployment, are also expected to be high on his list of priorities. The Premier is also expected to make announcements about improving the lives of especially young people, among whom the unemployment rate is very high. Ntuli is also expected to announce measures to deepen support for local government and traditional leaders.
Greenpeace Africa is expected to march to the Minerals and Resources Department in Pretoria this morning to oppose the mining of coal at Rietvlei Dam near the Rietvlei Nature Reserve. According to the organisation, brick-making giants Coral Brick has had its environmental plans approved by the department. The organisation says this will affect the climate, biodiversity and water quality for multiple municipalities in the surrounding areas. And finally, the trial of 78 opposition activists has begun in Zimbabwe. Dozens of members of the Citizens Coalition for Change were arrested in June following a police raid of a private meeting in Harare. The BBC's Shingai Nyoka reports.
The 78 appeared in a Harare magistrate's court, among them party leader Jameson Timber and a young woman with her 1-year-old child. They've spent the last 6 weeks in pre-trial detention. The group faces 2 charges of gathering to plan unlawful protests and disorderly conduct.
Recapping the top story, Reserve Bank Governor Lesija Kganyago has reiterated the importance of removing the country from the grey list in order to avoid long-term negative effects on the economy. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
SAfm. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, KZN South Coast area. All roads open this morning, and I believe it's a return to normal taxi services after 2 days of disruption. Yesterday was particularly bad, and to it Isingowini is open. R61, the route that links you from Margate down towards Eastern Cape border, all open as well. So normal taxi services resuming and roads open, which is good news. If driving into Durban, there may just be a bit of a hangover from overnight roadworks on the M4 to watch for. Southern Freeway approaching the city centre, and motorists driving from Pretoria to the airport for flight connections through rush hour this morning. Just note there are 2 work areas, the long-term one at Clayville and then a new one that's appeared over the last couple of days down just through the Benoni, R23 Benoni exit. So give yourself some extra time to get through any possible disruption or certain disruption on your way in towards flight connections from the airport. I'm Rob Byrne with your traffic update for SAfm.
A very good morning to you in your SAfm Sports headline. It's Olympics swimming pool. Tatiana Smith chasing another gold at the Paris Olympics today. And all eyes on Paige Badenhorst in the rowing, the semi-finals. We'll find out more just after 6:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
Hello! Just gone 6 o'clock. 7 minutes past 6 if you need to know the time. I am John Carricker. This is SAfm Breakfast. It is a busy show today. A couple of stories that are going to make me angry, and hopefully it makes you angry as well, because I just don't understand how it's been allowed to go on so far. We'll get to that in a moment. International news coming up in a moment. We're going to get an update on what is happening in Venezuela. Contested elections, or is it just the West that are contesting the elections? We'll talk to a research associate at the Brenthurst Foundation, founder there, and get an update on what is happening in Venezuela. A couple of other stories as well. Then one of the stories, it could be a good news story, but to me it comes across as a bad news story. People in need of HIV or TB medicines are sent home empty-handed. This is up in the northwest province of South Africa. According to a latest survey of public healthcare services, that province is struggling to supply much-needed medicine. Also, like headache tablets, just pain tablets that people are wanting. It's just not getting to the northwest. It's improved. It has been worse than it currently is. So I guess you could spin it that way to say, well, look what we're doing. 84% of the needed medication is there. What about the rest of it, the 16% that don't have their medication? And staying with stories that make me angry, SASSA's fraud management system's fraught with danger. If you're a SASSA, this is the Social Relief of Distress grant system. If you need that money, that's $350. That's what you're living on, 350 Rand. They're now requiring you to send a picture on a smartphone so that you can be identified by Home Affairs. But Home Affairs might not have your picture because you're still on an old green ID book, and they don't have an updated photograph. I know my old green ID book is a picture of me when I was 18, so that's not going to work. Plus, if you're on an SRD, chances of you having a cell phone and data and good connection to the internet are very, very small. So, plus, it's going through a third party. This information that you're sending and updating and having to re-register yourself is going through a third party. Where is that information going? We're going to find all of that out in the next hour or so. After the news at 7 o'clock, what is going on with the National Assembly building, the parliamentary building? Steen McPherson is the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. He will join us. Where's the 2 billion Rand going to revamp that? They're saying they want to get started in October. It seems like a very long time ago that fire happened at the Parliament, so we'll get an update on that. Transnet is restructuring, so they are now going semi-private, can we ask? There will be some private structures in the rail, and it's being broken up into a number of little departments, and we will get an update from the CEO of the Railroad Association what the future of Transnet is. It's a massive hurdle to be able to move our goods into the ports and out of the ports. The ports form part of that. How many times have we been on the radio and we've said about the trucks that are lining up outside the ports and they're not working? If we had good railroad infrastructure, then things might be better. And apparently this will change that, and we'll find out why. You heard Elvis talking about it. We're going to have another go at the 63 million South Africans in the country now. New 835,513 more people in South Africa. Welcome if you're a young'un. I guess you're not, or maybe you are awake now holding one of those little 835,000 new babies. Welcome to it. And which provinces are the big provinces? Where are people moving around? The population and social statistics will be able to help us to know where people are. Updates on the markets. The blue light mafia defense, they say, are wasting time, says Action Society. This is that ongoing situation about the blue light VIP protection that allegedly attacked those drivers, saying that the drivers had no driver's license, as if that's an excuse for being able to beat them up on the side of the road and leaving them for dead. And then Total Energy has decided to abandon 2 of its 4 blocks for exploration and production rights in South Africa. Is that good or bad news? The green people, and we're going to talk to the green people, Green Connection, say that's fantastic news. Leave the seas to the fishermen and the fish and the environment. And then in our science feature today, Eskom has extended the life of Koeberg, the nuclear power plant. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Minerals and Energy, the Council of Geoscience is saying it's a fantastic thing. And we'll find out what is good about that. And then we have that this updated feature. We're going to get reaction from the electricity minister, who's having good things to say about energy and electricity in South Africa. We're going to get rebuttal to that and see, is the minister maybe making promises and making speeches that he can't back up. We'll talk to the head of Energy Secretariat at Sanedi and an energy expert and get an update on what exactly is happening with our energy. Remember, before the elections, everything was going to fall apart. We were going to have stage 8 load shedding. We were going to have to be in the dark for months. They were burning all the diesel. And yet here we are. We haven't had load shedding for months. Don't quite know what's going on. Everybody who bought generators and solar kind of just sitting there, saving you a little bit of money, but is it really? All of that and plenty more coming up in the show. This is SAfm Breakfast.
Chomi, I just hope I get auto-assessed this year so I can just accept.
You're so lazy. Remember, not everyone gets the auto-assessment notice.
I know, but I'm ready. I've got my e-filing password sorted, I've updated my details, and my IRP5 is ready.
Make tax matters priority by updating your personal and banking details and expect your auto-assessment notice from 1 to 14 July. If you disagree with your auto-assessment, file your return via e-filing. If you don't receive a notice, visit e-filing to submit your tax return from 15 July 2024. Visit sars.gov.za for more information. Your tax matters. SARS, at your service.
Are you a small business owner that wants to give your company a bit of a boost? Well, you're in luck. FlySafair's Business Booster is back, giving local enterprises a chance to fly high. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za. Tell us about your business and you could be one of 6 winners to receive 10 return flights and exposure across our social and digital channels. It's our way of celebrating homegrown talent that fuels our nation. Fly SAfm, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumapi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3, Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The Daily News Diary on SAfm.
Good morning, Anne. How's it going?
I'm all good. Good morning, John. Yourself?
You know, I'm all right, eh?
All good.
Getting used to this morning thing, which is fine.
It's not bad, right?
Well, as long as you go to bed by 6 o'clock.
No way.
I don't
That's
know.
too early.
I was talking to Sakina this yesterday. And she was like, what time do you eat, Sakina? Because I want to eat at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon so I can go to bed after 6. She goes, are you mad? She goes to bed like 9, 10 o'clock. I was like,
I agree with her.
No.
That's the best time.
I get
between 9 and 10.
Grumpy John if I don't get my 8 hours. I tell you what. What's happening in the news today?
Well, convicted serial rapist and murderer Thabo Bester is set to challenge his arrest in Tanzania last year, and Bester's new lawyer had told the court last week that the Free State High Court that they will be submitting an application seeking to challenge the court's jurisdiction on this matter as well as a fair trial. So Bester and his co-accused expected back in court today for a pre-trial hearing. Also looking at the disciplinary process for the 12 learners from the Pretoria High School for Girls who were suspended over racism allegations. It continues today and it's the final day. The Gauteng Education MEC, Matome Chilwane, is expected to attend, and yesterday was the first day, and the department there took some swift action by removing 8 of the 12 suspended learners who held prefect positions from their leadership roles. We also heard that the principal was suspended for a period of 3 months, and that is pending the outcome of an investigation. It is also State of the Province addresses today in KZN. The Premier there, Tamin Ntuli, will be delivering his State of the Province address and is expected to provide an overview of the steps the provincial government intends to take to enable KwaZulu-Natal's economic recovery. The improvement of service delivery as well as fighting crime and unemployment are also expected to be high on his list of priorities. In the Western Cape, the Premier, Ellen Windy, will deliver his address at the official opening of the first session of the 7th administration of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, and the housing crisis, energy efficiency and unemployment, some of the issues that he will be looking at. And in Mpumalanga, the Premier there, Mandla Ndlovu, will deliver his speech outlining how he is going to address issues such as service delivery in Mpumalanga. There's also a protest in Cape Town. Kusatu will be protesting outside the Sea Harvest at the waterfront, and this is to highlight health and safety within the workplace. And 11 fishermen are presumed to have drowned when a company vessel sank in May this year off the Hout Bay coast, and their bodies have not yet been recovered.
Yeah, these provincial addresses to me are so important because that's like feet on the ground. This affects you and I. National is fine, and we get that as big picture stuff. But this starts getting like, how does my street get affected?
True.
I'm looking forward to hear what the minister or what the premiers have to say. And Musa, thank you very much. We'll catch up with you again in 15 or so minutes.
You are listening to John Gericka on SAfm.
These headlines coming up at 5:30. Full bulletins at the top of the hour always. Let's look at your weather this morning. There is one warning, and I had to double check this. Extremely high fire danger conditions expected in Blouberg local municipality in Limpopo. Not the one down in the Western Cape. The Blouberg local municipality in Limpopo has high fire dangers. Otherwise, the rest of the country, partly cloudy in Pretoria today, 10 to 23. Johannesburg, partly cloudy, 5 to 22. Vereeniging, partly cloudy, isolated showers and thunder showers, 2 to 23. Mbombela is cloudy, some morning fog and drizzle, 10 to 17. Polokwane is partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine, 7 to 19. Mahikeng is partly cloudy, 6 to 22. Vryburg, fine, it'll become partly cloudy, -1 to 25. Bloemfontein has some morning frost, otherwise fine, -3 to 22. Kimberley's fine, 1 to 21. Uppington also fine, 2 to 23. Cape Town fine, a moderate to fresh southerly to southeasterly, 8 to 16. George is fine, a moderate to fresh northwesterly. It'll become southwesterly this afternoon, 5 to 16. Gqeberha's fine, a moderate to fresh westerly, but southwesterly in the afternoon, 6 to 17. East London fine, moderate to fresh westerly, but southwesterly in the afternoon, 5 to 20. Durban is cloudy, the wind is a moderate southerly to southwester. It'll become light to moderate easterly to northeasterly from the afternoon. Good day, 10 to 21. Richards Bay, partly cloudy to cloudy, isolated showers and rain. A moderate southerly to southwesterly wind. It'll become light to moderate easterly to northeasterly this afternoon, 13 to 22 in Richards Bay. And Pietermaritzburg, partly cloudy to cloudy, becoming fine this afternoon. A minimum of 5 and a high of 19.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international news.
Couple of updates internationally. First of all, from the Ukraine, its allies and Ukraine are concerned as Russia moves towards the key Ukrainian supply city of Pokrovsk, threatening a vital Ukrainian supply line. The breakthrough by Russia comes as a result of applying pressure against the Ukrainian defense across the entire eastern front line for months, trying to capture as much territory as possible before new Ukrainian recruits and fresh batches of Western weapons arrive on the battlefield. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky acknowledged the difficult situation, saying Ukrainian troops were facing extremely challenging realities in that area. Also, the fears of war between Israel and Hezbollah have grown following an attack on a sports field that killed 12 children this weekend. Israel has since retaliated against the Iranian-backed Lebanese group Hezbollah, which is suspected to be behind the attack. In its latest attack, Israel targeted Hezbollah commander by striking in Beirut in Lebanon. Israel's defense minister Yoav Gallant said Hezbollah crossed the red line in a social media post. The Israel Defense Force says it had carried out a targeted strike in Beirut on the commander responsible for the murder of the children in Majd al-Shams and the killing of numerous additional Israeli civilians. Now, on Monday, protests broke out in several Venezuelan cities with protesters calling for the truth regarding the election results following the announcement by the country's electoral authority that authoritarian leader Nicolas Maduro was the winner in the presidential race. Let's find out more with Professor Lyle White, research associate at the Brenthurst Foundation and founder of the Brenthurst Foundation as well. Prof, good morning to you. Thanks very much. These elections were highly contested. The results, are the full results and details out yet?
Yes, morning, John. And just a quick correction on my byline there. I'm not the founder of the Brenthurst Foundation.
Oh, okay.
That's my colleague, Greg Mills. I'm actually a faculty member at the Gordon Institute of Business Science and a research associate at Brenthurst. Yeah, so the outcome of the results, yes, they were released by, as you mentioned, the National Electoral Council, the CNE, which happens to be part of the political party of the incumbent president, obviously Nicolas Maduro, the authoritarian that had been in power since 2013. And those were the results that they announced. But these are being contested by the opposition. This is now for the first time in literally 25 years in Venezuela, a united opposition and one that has now contested the election against what they call the Chavistas, which was the political party of Hugo Chavez. And interestingly enough, they have contested this not only because they've got tallies from international polling firms, etc., that placed their candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez, at winning the election by in excess of 65% of the majority. So this is a contestable outcome, and it's also obviously it's raised many, many concerns around the world, but especially from the regional leaders, from Chile to Argentina to Brazil even. And this is why we've seen protests spilling out onto the streets of Caracas and other cities across Venezuela.
What do independent analysts and election observers have to say?
Well, most of the independent analysts and observers have disputed the outcome. I think this is a relevant question, John, because what we've seen is that not only are the likes of the United States and the European Union expressing concern or even questioning this outcome, some of Maduro's so-called ideological allies in the region, those presidents that are from the left-leaning side of the political spectrum, they have even questioned whether this is an outcome that could have been expected. I reference in particular Gabriel Boric, the president of Chile, who said that a victory by Maduro is not only unlikely but would be surprising. And when it did come out, obviously this was then contested then by Maduro himself, such a statement. And he has now expelled many of the diplomatic missions from the region, from his own country.
South Africa is saying that they condemn and dispel allegations of a fraudulent electoral process in Venezuela. Where's that coming from?
That's a very, very interesting comment. I actually haven't seen that yet, John, because I was wondering where South Africa was on this. But I think just reading between the lines, this has now come to surface that it was, and it's obviously not the first time. Maduro's government has invented election results before, and the vote has now been riddled with irregularities. A very, very obvious one, John, is that some of the officials have refused to release the printouts from each of those kind of election polls. They've refused to release these printouts verifying the electronic voting count, and obviously then leaving the country without a way to confirm the results that were announced on Monday at first. This is really, really important, because what the opposition have done is they've tallied up their counts with either leaked results or managed to get people that were Maduro supporters in these various polling stations. And they actually have claimed victory with just 70% of the vote. Let's not forget, Mr. Gonzalez actually, according to the other polls, had won the elections with somewhere between 63% and 70%. That would be a landslide victory in Venezuela, and one that they could have claimed in. And they have asked now to have this considered. And obviously, Maduro has said we'll engage in negotiations with the opposition. But he has said this a little bit disingenuously, because he has also suggested that the opposition leaders have been part of an election scandal in Venezuela.
All right, Prof, let me read the statement from South Africa. It says over 15 South African election observers currently in Caracas, part of a total of 910 observers from 95 countries. They are in the Latin American country to oversee the presidential elections. The observers belong to, amongst others, the ANC, SACP, COSATU, Contralesa, Savuve, Royal House of Mandela, and others. They're invited and hosted by their relevant counterparts. The statement's been issued by the following South Africans: Soli Petwa's there, Obed Bapela, Madiba Mosuku, Zulani Makiva, Chief Zwelevilile Mandla Mandela from the Royal House of Mandela, Mohammed Musa Desal. There's a host of others as well, obviously 15 of them. Why would they say something completely different to what the rest of the world is saying?
Interesting, John, because obviously the rest of the world, which is now led predominantly by some of the Latin American leaders that are in the region, and as I mentioned, on a similar side of the spectrum to the Maduro or the Chavistas themselves, they have actually disputed the election outcome. So it's the likes of Lula da Silva's Brazil, Argentina, Gabriel Boric, who I mentioned, from Chile. Even the government of Colombia has actually disputed this. But then, in support of what this statement suggests, is some of the world's nastiest regimes like China, Iran, Russia, Syria, they have all congratulated Mr. Maduro. So I suppose it's a moment where we actually look at which side of history we are on as South Africa, as in our engagement on this particular topic. And I believe this is also something that the opposition in Venezuela, Ms. Machado, who's really leading the opposition alongside Mr. Gonzalez, they have pleaded to the military, which is also obviously in support of Maduro. They have pleaded to the military to also look at which side of history they will stand on at this pivotal time in Venezuela. Let's not forget that this is not the first time we are seeing this. We saw this in 2018 during the election run. Maduro was first elected to the president to be president of Venezuela back in 2013, and just about every election since then, he has somehow interfered with, and they have been riddled with irregularities. This is going to be a pivotal moment right now in Venezuela as we watch it unfold. And obviously, sadly, in a country like Venezuela, one that will be characterized with a great deal of protests and violent protests at that.
Yeah, you see, and I knew I'd get this message. I think we got voice notes already saying where Americans are involved, there's always trouble and instability. And I've seen a lot of Twitter accounts saying that this is it's a CIA initiative to try and have regime change. It doesn't matter which way the elections go.
Yeah, so a very simple response to that is let's track the record of Venezuela back in the last 25 years. Let's also look at what the political leaders in the region, I'll repeat these then, Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, all of them, what they are saying. Yes, the United States, and by the way, United States did not contest the outcome as yet. They raised concerns alongside the European Union. But I would, if I was in South Africa's position right now, I would actually take a note out of the book of those leaders that are actually in the region that are very, very familiar with the implications. There are over a quarter of the population of Venezuela has fled the country. The country has been imbued or has been sunken into hyperinflation of over 1 million%. This is not a country that has been successful under this regime, and it is without a doubt an authoritarian regime that is in place. And right now, if we actually not part of on the right side of history of this one, it's going to be a very, very interesting thing to explain in months and years to come.
Professor Lyle White, thank you very much. Research Associate at the Brenthurst Foundation. What do you make of that? Give us a call. You can always call 086 000 2032. I see some voice notes have come in as well on that topic. You're more than welcome to send us a voice note as well. 0614 104 107. You're with SAfm. It's SAfm Breakfast. Coming up after news and finance and sport and traffic, we'll get an update on what is happening with HIV and TB medicines in the Northwest. There seems to be a shortage there. And we'll get an update on the SASSA fraud management system. Fraught with danger, it says here. We'll find out why. It's 6:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh has been killed in the capital city of Iran, Tehran, along with one of his bodyguards. This is according to a statement released by the Hamas and Iran's elite revolutionary guards. The Bloemfontein Magistrates Court has dismissed harassment and defamation charges against SAPS whistleblower Patricia Morgan Mashale and her husband, and Reserve Bank Governor Lesija Kganyago has reiterated the importance of removing the country from the grey list in order to avoid long-term negative effects on the economy. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Highway traffic around Joburg. The Mike 1 is quite heavy today from Gold Reef City all the way through Crown and up to Empire Road. It is by a long way the heaviest congested highway around Gauteng. Now, if you're driving down to the airport, there's 2 roadworks on the R21, the long-term ones at Clayville, but there's some new ones that have gone in just between sort of Benoni exit and the Pomona off-ramp. So just give yourself that extra time to get through both holdouts. Crash going into Durban, leaving Pietermaritzburg between Ortman Road and New England Road. So watch for some delays as you come into that particular scene. The south coast of KZN all open after a major day of disruption yesterday. A meeting held between the municipality and the taxi drivers late yesterday afternoon to agree a way forward, and that would see taxis operating this morning and the roads remaining open. So it's all fairly, it is a return to normal situation after major disruption yesterday. Cape Town, a crash, N1 into town just by Plattekloof Road. So coming through from Belleville, that traffic's building up. There's a motorcyclist involved in that one. And just off the highway, but it will have an impact in the Belleville area, Yipdiyaga Drive. No traffic lights at the N1. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Morning, Zai. I know you're going to talk Olympic Games, but I was just watching Vincent Legoni making his debut at the Olympic Games. I've never seen somebody enjoy himself as much at the Games. He was having such a jaw.
The boykie from Krugersdorp. Yes, he did. He didn't make it though, but you know what? I think BMX has got a bright future. But anyway, a bright future is where we're heading to when it comes to the South African swimming star, Tatiana Smith. Well, she's set to make history at the Paris Olympics after securing gold in the women's 100-meter breaststroke final on Monday. Smith will compete in the heats of her favourite 200-meter breaststroke event today at 11 a.m. and she'll be aiming for tomorrow's final. Now, should she podium again, the 27-year-old will become the first South African woman to earn 4 Olympic medals following her 2 podium finishes at the Tokyo Games in 2021. Meanwhile, 20-year-old Peter Coetzee will also return to the pool today for the men's 200-meter backstrokes heat at 21 minutes past 11, hoping to advance to tomorrow's final. Additionally, former Olympic medalists Henry Skuman and Jamie Riddle will compete in the men's triathlon at 11 today. And this after a postponement due to poor water quality in the Seine River. Also, Vicky van der Merwe is racing in the women's triathlon at 8 a.m. this morning. Rugby, the South African women's sevens team finished their maiden Olympics with their first win at the Paris 2024 Games to finish the tournament on a high note at Stade de France. The Springbok women's sevens built on their encouraging form from Monday when they just went down to Great Britain and Japan. They outplayed Fiji 21-15 in the playoff match for 11th place, a performance that left their coach Renfred Dazel both proud and relieved.
I think for us it was very important, as the girls said, they don't want to finish last in this tournament, and then for us just to get that opportunity to play at the Olympics is big. I think we were starstruck the first day, and we got two big losses against Ireland and Australia, and then I think yesterday the girls were amazing game management in both games the last minute, and it could have been a different story, but I'm so proud of them just for not giving up. It could easily be the other way, but well done to the girls for just putting the bodies on the line after a long 11-month season, and I think they did really well under the circumstances.
More women's sevens rugby, where Alex Cedric ran the length of the pitch in the final play, then converted her own try to give the United States a 14-12 victory over Australia, and that was in the bronze playoff, and claimed the country's first ever medal in Olympic rugby sevens yesterday. It was the second stunning setback in the day for Australia. The season's grand finale champions and 2016 gold medalists were beaten by Canada 21-12 in the semi-finals after leading 12-0. And finally, tennis. The all-star Spanish pairing of Carlos Alcaraz and Rafa Nadal have reached their Olympic men's doubles quarterfinals yesterday after a hard-fought win over Talon Griekspoor and Wesley Koolhof from the Netherlands. More sport, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAfm.
And it's good morning to Ntaoleng Lechela, keeping us updated with what's happening in business. What's the big stories this morning?
Morning, John. So let's start off with the Eurozone. That economy expanded by 0.3% in the second quarter. This was slightly above expectations and was boosted by an improvement in economic activity in 20 countries in that bloc. France and Spain's economies performed better than expected, while Italy's economy remained stable. But Germany's economy took a knock, raising concerns about a prolonged crisis in a country that was once Europe's powerhouse for about a decade. Now, output in Germany fell 0.1% due to lower investments in equipment and building. So basically the construction sector taking the biggest hit. Economists are concerned about Germany's economic struggles and say they may not just be a temporary setback, but rather a sign of deeper issues with the country's competitiveness. They believe that Germany's reliance on energy from Russia and its strong ties with China, which have been disrupted, have exposed weakness in its economic model. Now, the downturn in Germany has dragged down the outlook for the whole Eurozone bloc, further boosting bets for another rate cut from the European Central Bank to bolster that economy.
And Pfizer looking for alternative ways to make money.
Now, Pfizer, the pharmaceutical giant known for its COVID vaccine, has been working on stabilizing its operations. The group was dealt a blow just after 2022 when COVID vaccine sales started declining, weighing on its top line. And so over the past 6-7 months, the group's been streamlining, implementing cost-cutting initiatives, and even trialing weight loss drugs. Its attempts have somewhat started paying off. During the second quarter, Pfizer delivered a 2% rise in revenue. This was the first quarter of top-line growth since since the fourth quarter of 2022, when its COVID vaccines revenues peaked. Now, the improvement was driven in part by the success of Seagen's cancer treatments. Pfizer acquired Seagen in an attempt to diversify away from COVID treatments, and that deal was completed last December. Now, the upbeat performance has allowed it to hike its full-year guidance. The drug maker expects annual revenue and earnings to be better than initially forecast in the first quarter.
And what's happening on the numbers?
Kicking things off in the US, the rotation out of tech stocks is rearing its head again. We saw the S&P 500 and Nasdaq falling, dragged by declines in mega-cap tech stocks as investors braced for more quarterly reports from that sector. Traders also set their eyes on Washington as the Fed prepares to close off its latest policy meeting. Taking a look at Asian markets, stocks trading mostly higher as investors await the Bank of Japan's rate decision and as they assessed China's business activity data. Coming back home, the JC mainly being fueled by global market sentiment. The all share ending yesterday's trade up 0.23%. The rand in the meantime showing some strength. This comes as the dollar slightly pulled back ahead of that Fed policy decision. Now the local unit is currently trading at 18.30 to the dollar.
Thank you very much. Plenty more business coming up than Taoleng in an hour's time.
SAfm. Prime time all day long.
20 to 7. What is happening in the Northwest Province? Some people in need of HIV or tuberculosis medicines are sent home empty-handed after visiting clinics in the Northwest, but apparently there's an improvement as well. From the Richidze project, the project coordinator there is Indibowo Rambao. Indibowo, good morning to you. Thanks very much for joining us. What is going on in the Northwest Province?
Good morning. So in the Northwest, where we conduct community-led monitoring as the Richidze project, we monitored over 72 facilities and we found that there were about 148 reports of shortages or stockouts of medicine. This is a decline since 2021, where when we were doing our monitoring, we found over 895 reports of stockouts of medicines and other, resources that patients would need when visiting the facilities.
All right, so I could argue this is a good news story. Things are improving, but I guess if you don't get your medication, it doesn't matter if they're improving.
And that's the beauty of community-led monitoring. As CLM, we come into our facilities just to find the red flags, what the experiences of patients are when accessing services. And we find that with only one person, it might be like one person's experience of not receiving their medication, but it is one experience too much. So yes, there hasn't been an improvement, but there are still patients who are still saying, look, it's really a challenge for me. I get to the facility, I ask for some of the medication, they tell me that they don't have, and I must go and buy it in the pharmacy. And when you speak to some patients, they'll be like, look, I don't really work. So being given a script and being told to go buy this over the counter is also a bit of a challenge for me because I cannot afford it.
What are the reasons? Why aren't medications getting to the clinics?
So in our conversation with the department, there was a challenge at first with, paying off service providers and so on. And when we had a meeting with the department before launching the State of Health report, they indicated that all of the challenges that they had, they are working on those. They've opened up a new depot as well. They've paid off certain service providers to ensure that there are medications in the facility so the people of Northwest can be serviced on time in terms of HIV medication, TB medication, as well as, cardiac medication and so on.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the big ones, HIV and TB, but just things like paracetamol, aspirin, gauzes, bandages, needles not even getting there properly.
That is true, and that is a particular challenge, especially when we look at vaccinations for children as well. We've had reports of people telling us that, no, I had to turn away because there wasn't vaccination on a certain day, or I was told that once we open a certain medication, we have to make sure that there's another child in the facility that can also be administered the medication. So people do come and report different kind of experiences, and something as simple as not getting, ibuprofen or Panado can be a big deal for someone who's in pain and wants to take that to feel some immediate relief.
Okay, so things are improving. We'll look at the positive of that. One issue is just how few pharmacists and pharmacist assistants there are. This is an issue. There's a staffing issue up in the Northwest as well.
Yes, there is an issue of the staffing, in a sense that having a pharmacist and pharmacist assistants on site helps to also check the amount of stock that a facility would have. But in most instances, we found that facility managers, nurses, or even like enrolled nurse assistants acted in the capacity of pharmacists, basically. And this just has a knock-on effect on also having to give services to people, but also checking that there's enough, medication in the facility. It does become very overwhelming on professional nurses as well, which leads to issues of staff attitude, for example, because there's a lot that as one person you need to do.
Yeah, it's the report says 9% of surveyed facilities had a pharmacist, 18% had a pharmacist assistant. Should that be at 100%?
That should be at 100% if we want our facilities to function and work well. Wow. We need to ensure that those posts are actually filled and ensure that there is a proper supply chain management across the province as well, which would be able to report stock availability as well. And we should actually train and employ more pharmacist assistants in order to ensure that there's improved stocks in the facility.
Would the NHI solve all of these problems?
Well, as Richidze and the PLHIV sector, we want the NHI in a sense that we want equal healthcare for everyone. And obviously, before we get there, we need to fix all of our red flags that we're finding in the healthcare system. And with CLM, we're hoping that working together with the governments, we can see where we're going wrong, fix that before we can get into the NHI as well.
Ndibowa Rambal, thank you very much. Richid's a project coordinator, updating us on the numbers coming out of the Northwest Province. They are improving, but is it improving enough? Let us know what you think. It's 6:45.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Mbona called us from King. Hello, Mbona.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. How's it?
It's good. I want to speak about the France Olympic.
Yes.
2020. Yes. It seems like there's a double standard of world leaders in sport administration in the world. Because how can Israel participate and Russia reject it?
Russia is not in because of doping.
And then Israel?
Israel's, they don't have a doping issue. It's two different things. So the way I understand it is Russia's not in the Olympic Games because of widespread state-sponsored doping. And athletes from Russia can compete if they are independent athletes. So it's not because of the war that they've been banned, it's because of the doping.
No, because why? If you look into South Africa when it was apartheid government,
yes,
it was banned into Olympics for over 20 years.
So that's your argument, is if South Africa was banned, why isn't Israel banned?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know the answer to that, but it's an ongoing debate, and everybody's questioning that. It's something that's not going away. It's not being brushed aside.
That is a double standard which is not fair.
To whom? Not fair to whom?
Not fair to the people of the world, because the people of Palestine is also the people of the world.
Yep. Okay. Mbona, thank you very much. Questioning why the Israeli athletes are allowed to compete at the Olympic Games. What do you think? Should they be allowed to? Is it the athletes' fault that Israel's at war, or should those standards be applied across the board? Let me know what you think. 086 000 2032. Some voice notes this morning.
Good morning. Bishop Magwana from Leboa Home Zone F. Gerija, the observers of South Africa, just the observers, they're questionable. All of them, they're from SACP, they're from ANC, they're from COSATU. They're questionable. These are ANC and SACP allies, whom the ANC is an ally to Majuru. It's the same as the ANC is allied to ZANU-PF. They would never denounce ZANU-PF. So they will never denounce Majuru. So these were not observers of South Africa. They were observers of the ANC, SACP. They were not representing South Africa.
John, Katlego in Cape Town. Welcome to SAfm in the morning. When you ask that prof who's commenting on the Venezuelan elections, what do the independent people say? Were you suggesting that he himself, as a person that is commenting on the issues, is not independent? Obviously, we can hear from his reasoning that is very biased. He has already concluded that the elections were not free and fair.
I was asking, maybe I put it in the wrong words. I was asking what independent observers in the country, in Venezuela, were having to say. That was my question.
Morning. I'm listening to your talk this morning, just speaking about kind of HIV and TB medication that's not being available in the Northwest. I'm a junior doctor at the moment in Johannesburg, and I think few people are aware of the crisis that we're actually facing at the moment with the NHLS labs being down. There are so many babies that are born at the moment, can't follow up with their HIV statuses at birth. So many people that are just succumbing to their diseases without even knowing what their diseases are. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that's a crisis at the moment. I don't think it's getting enough attention, and it's been more than a month now that this NHS system has been down. I just want to know I don't even want to know what the mortality is because of it.
All right, something we will have to look into. It's 10 minutes to 7.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Two major delays heading north in the Joburg area today. The Mike 1 by some distance the heaviest highway across the province, with queues from Ormonde right through to Empire Road in the Braamfontein area, and the N3 from the cement factory up into that permanent left lane closure at Van Buren queuing as well. Two roadwork areas on the R21, one at Clayville, which you'll know about, the other one just through the Benoni exit. So if you're coming out of Pretoria with flights to connect with, there are two stopping points this morning. At the N14 Ben Schoeman Highway between Jean Avenue and the M1 Brockfontein interchange, just queuing up through there. Durban, a breakdown this morning on the N2 northbound before Spaghetti Junction, so extra pressure coming through from the M7 ahead of the sort of roadwork squeeze that you get on by the Westwood Mall area. And Cape Town, the N1 into town, has a motorcyclist knocked down just before Plattekloof Road, so coming through from Belleville. There's quite a big heavy queue from Durban Road. Lights are out this morning just on the Yipti Yaga N1 Highway Bridge, and also the Stellenbosch Arterial R300 Bridge. No lights here, and that's quite a heavy backlog coming through from the Blackheath and Kale River area. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
When Freddie, a troubled woman, is nearly assaulted outside a nightclub, the toilet attendant steps in to help. Baba, a former child soldier, acts with swift, unstoppable brutality. She's entranced. The pair form an instant, intoxicating connection. Something dark within both of them quickly emerges. Soon, they set about exacting revenge on people from Freddie's past. Baba's skill for violence and Freddie's tinge of psychopathy prove a lethal combination. But they are not the only ones on the hunt. We hunt together, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 24th of July. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
Are you a small business owner that wants to give your company a bit of a boost? Well, you're in luck. FlySafair's Business Booster is back, giving local enterprises a chance to fly high. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za. Tell us about your business and you could be one of 6 winners to receive 10 return flights and exposure across our social and digital channels. It's our way of celebrating homegrown talent that fuels our nation. Fly SAfm for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
It's going to be a hot women's hockey battle between South Africa and Great Britain in Pool B. Mzansi Africa's plans are to fight hard from the first whistle to the end. But their opponents, GBR, believe they will deliver a touch of great class. This is the Olympic Games Paris 2024. South Africa tackles Great Britain on Wednesday, 31 July at 10:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport is the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes. For the love of the game.
SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
I'm John Gericke. We've got 7 minutes to 7 o'clock. They're making it, well, it seems as if they're making it as difficult as possible for SRDs, Social Relief of Distress Grants recipients, to get their money. Let's find out a little bit more with General Alfred Moyo. He is from Pay the Grants Campaign. He's the spokesperson there. Pay the Grants Campaign is a member of the Basic Income Coalition. General Moyo, good morning to you. Thanks very much. What is the latest hurdle that SASSA or SRD grant recipients have to jump over?
Good morning. And
all right, we seem to have a problem to General Moyo. So we're going to try him again. We'll see if we can get General
the
Moyo.
challenge that
Yeah. All right, you're breaking up, General. Let's try one more time. What are the challenges? Okay, we're not able to get General Moyo. Let's see if we can get him on a better line. One of the issues while we're getting him on the line is they now need to provide these first of all, what they've done is these members or people who are getting their SASSA grants have been they've had referred status. They need to comply with a biometric identity verification in order to get their grant, and that's part of the challenges. Is how are they able to get that verification done? They need to provide a high-quality photograph of themselves. Let's see if we can get hold of General Alfred Moyo. General, are you there? One more time. General. Yeah, there we go. General Moyo, let's go. One more time.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, at last. All right, what are the challenges they're facing?
The challenges that the beneficiaries are facing is this new introduced biometric verification. The beneficiaries are now required to have smartphones, which is a very, very, very digitalized way or exclusionary measure now that the SASSA is introducing, that people have to have the smartphone which got a high quality of a camera, which can take a photo for biometric verification, which this has been introduced in a very clandestine way around June, which no beneficiary have been notified before they introduced that. So many June recipients of their SASSA grant haven't received their June payment due to that.
All right, so they were put onto referred status. Why were they put onto referred status?
They were put into referred status. They allege that they are discovering some fraudulent activities within the beneficiaries, but they haven't yet actually substantiated their claim. But they only gave the beneficiaries the notification that they are being put on referred. So that means that those who are not on the green barcoded South African IDs were totally declined their June payments mostly. And now it seems like the SASSA is reintroducing the so-called smart IDs in a clandestine way, that people are forced now to go and apply for an ID, which is not free. It's 140 to do the ID, and some people are still not have the smartphones. So those are the challenges that the SASSA is introducing, and it's exclusionary measures that they are using to make sure that they keep on chopping people from the system.
Yeah, it's not just these referred status, also people who use the postbank payment that is now defunct. They've had to undergo biometric verification as well.
Yes, that's the challenge that we've been raising for some time. That the closures of the post offices, it's a very, very serious and tricky challenge that the beneficiaries now have to face. Some are not that digitally smart in terms of going through those step-by-step processes that people have to go through. And some people, as I indicate, that they are not having the smartphones. So they are relying on those who have smartphones to assist them to register and check their status. But now, with this new requirement, it requires that one have to have his or her own smartphone, which can also be a challenge.
So you need
many people that are relying on this 370 rand.
You need to renew your ID. You need to get a smartphone. Are there alternative ways of doing this? Is SASSA giving options that they can go to an office maybe and do this registration online?
That's unfortunately, we've only seen that in Kebeka, where they've done this pilot project, trying to test these people going through and having an access to Wi-Fi and getting some laptops at the branch, at the SASSA branch, to use that. But we know this cannot be sustained nationally in SASSA branches. So many people in rural areas are far from SASSA offices. Many people cannot have the digital knowledge of going through all those processes, even if they might be closer to Wi-Fi or so forth. Those are the serious challenges that people have to go through, all these barriers that are being imposed on them.
Let's talk about possible third parties involved here. There's these algorithms that have determined the data and decided whether this is referred status or not. Who's running those algorithms? Is that SASSA or is it somebody else?
We think that's the third person, which is something that raises a very serious concern, taking from the previous exposure of people's identity and people's personal information, which have been sold out. So we see this coming back with the third party being used to capture the database of people. So this is a problematic challenge that we are also facing. So previously we've been told that those are the systematic glitches. Before that, it was referred as errors, systemic errors. Then it changed to glitches. Now we are seeing this as a systematic exclusionary measures. No longer glitches, no longer errors, but as a man-made systematic exclusionary measures.
General Moyo, we've got to go to the news, but what can people do who haven't received their grants and can't update their details?
It's a very tricky situation that we are facing, and the beneficiaries are struggling as we speak, as I'm indicating that mostly those who were on referred status around June are still being declined even today. There are many millions that have been actually chopped out of the system, and some have no alternative because they have to go through this biometric verification, which some they don't have smartphones, some they don't have even data, some are not even that digitally smart to go through all these processes. So it's a very tricky situation. But we are still pushing on and soldiering on with our court case with the DSD and SASSA, which is going ahead around October.
General, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much. General Alfred Moyo is a spokesperson for Pay the Grants campaign, a member of the Basic Income Coalition. It's 7 o'clock.
In our top stories, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh killed in Tehran and grey listing impacting on South Africa's economy. Good morning. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh and one of his bodyguards have been killed in the capital city of Iran. This is according to a statement released by Hamas and Iran's elite Revolutionary Guards. Haniyeh was in Tehran to attend the Iranian president's swearing-in ceremony yesterday. The Revolutionary Guards said Haniyeh's residence was targeted and the attack is being investigated. Back home, the Bloemfontein Magistrates Court has dismissed harassment and defamation charges against SAPS whistleblowers Patricia Morgan Mashale and husband George Mashale. They were charged with harassment after the Deputy Provincial Police Commissioner, Major General Soli Lisia, opened a criminal case against them for alleged breach of a harassment order he had obtained against them over WhatsApp messages. The magistrate found the state's case relied on hearsay and had no authentic evidence. The case lasted for almost a year since it started in August last year. Patricia has described the court judgment as a bittersweet moment.
It's a relief. It's really a bittersweet moment. I've been waiting for this day for so long, and finally I'm vindicated. You heard what the court say. There was no crime, there was no charges, there was nothing. We were dragged before court because of people who were misusing state resources, because of people abusing their powers, who thought they had a law unto themselves.
The Reserve Bank Governor Lesija Kganyago has reiterated the importance of removing the country from the grey list in order to avoid long-term negative effects on the economy. Speaking at the Central Bank's AGM in Pretoria yesterday, Kganyago said the bank's Prudential Authority and the Financial Surveillance Department are leading efforts to achieve this goal. South Africa faces 2 reporting deadlines in September this year and another in January. Kganyago elaborates.
Although foreign counterparties have been applying greater scrutiny for our domestic institutions as a result of the FATF grey listing, the PA has found no immediate negative impact on correspondent banking relationships. It is nevertheless imperative that the action items are addressed timeously to avoid long-term negative effects on the economy.
Crime expert Lizette Lancaster says the so-called tender mafia groups are a growing threat to emerging contractors doing business with government. This follows the recent kidnap and brutal murders of 5 men alleged to be from a group known as Boko Haram from Mamelodi, east of Pretoria. It's believed they were abducted on their way to Mamelodi following an altercation at a construction site. They were tortured and killed. The group reportedly went to a road construction site to demand a 30% stake in the project or face disruption. Lancaster explains.
These directives aim to transform the economy by empowering historically disadvantaged individual and small, medium and micro enterprises. They require that winners of state tenders over 30 million subcontract at least 30% of the contract's value to small local developers to undertake construction work. These regulations have been deliberately misinterpreted by criminal groups who demand 30% share of state and non-state construction projects. Often cash payments are claimed.
Meanwhile, Gauteng police are yet to make any arrests in connection with the murders of the 5 men, police spokesperson Mavela Masondo.
Police have opened a case of 5 counts of murder after the bodies of 5 males were discovered in an open field in Retabiseng in Bronkhorstspruit. All the victims were found with gunshot wounds. The motive for the killing cannot be confirmed at this stage. Police are still searching for the suspects and are appealing to anyone who might have information that can help in the investigation or assist in the apprehension of the suspects to please call the nearest police station.
Recapping the top story, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh and one of his bodyguards have been killed in the capital city of Iran. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
SAfm. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very heavy getting up through Joburg's Crown interchange this morning. Gold Reef City through to around Oxford Road is the problem. And then further up, there looks like there's probably been a crash incident around the sort of 11th Avenue, Rafira Road area, because the Mike 1 north into that's heavy and southbound as well, coming from Houghton Estate in towards Killarney region. Very slow on that section of the M1 highway as well. The N1 from Malabongwe round to Rivonia Road looking slow. Looks like a breakdown now on the N14 before the N1 Brockfontein. If you're arriving into that from Jean Avenue, it's very sluggish. South coast of KZN is open, roads open, and taxis operating normally today. And Cape Town, there's a crash on the N2 inbound at Hospital Bend, pushing traffic back towards the airport, and a crash on the M1 inbound at Plattercliff, holding traffic arriving from Belleville. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAfm Sports headlines. It's an Olympic recap, and we have Team South Africa's Paige Bardnos advancing to the rowing semi-finals. And we'll also bring you a rugby update with the Springboks preparing for the Rugby Championship opener against the Wallabies. All this and more at around 7:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
It's 7:08. I'm John Gericke. Welcome to the show. Coming up in the next half hour, we're talking to the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure about what is happening with the Parliament buildings. It's been 2 years since that fire in the Parliament buildings. We'll get an update on that. There's money, 2.1 billion rand. It's been delayed by recent heavy rain, so we'll get an update on there and when they hope to finish that building. Then there's changes at Transnet. There's been an update now on the restructuring of the state-owned enterprise. A number of changes happening to Transnet. We'll talk to the CEO for the Railroad Association. And then just before the news headlines, South Africa's population has gone over 63 million people now. The good news, life expectancy has increased by a lot, which is great news. 835,513 more people. 1.33% increase since July of last year, which is fascinating. We'll talk to the Deputy Director General of Population and Social Statistics, Solly Molai, and find out what that means for you and I and how they got all those numbers put together. All of that coming up in the next half hour.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
And we would buy 500 cars, and we would buy 500 more. So sell your car for the best price, and we won't think about it twice. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
You wouldn't think of him without thinking of gold. Wade van Niekerk won gold and broke Michael Johnson's 17-year-old world record.
He's pulling away. It's an unbelievable victory by a huge margin. A century of history at 43.03.
Van Niekerk's performance at the men's 400-meter final will undoubtedly be remembered forever. Although he was running blind in lane 8, considered the worst lane on the track, the 24-year-old rider gave it his all and broke a 17-year-old record and won gold at the same time. South Africa left Rio with 10 medals and numerous first times. The country's athletes wrote their stories into the Olympic history books and will forever be admired for their achievements. Magical moments of the Olympics, brought to you by SABC Sport, proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024.
For the love of the game.
Keeping you informed and ready for the day ahead on hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
It's 7:11. It's been 2 years since the National Assembly building was gutted in a fire. Let's find out the process of repairing it, rebuilding it, with the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Minister Dean McPherson. Minister, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. What's the current state of that refurbishment?
Good morning, John. Good morning to your listeners. It is currently still in the removing of rubble and damaged sort of structures within the National Assembly. That is expected to be done fairly shortly. They will then start the process of awarding the contract to whoever the contractor will be to start the build. And they hope to do so by the end of October. And then there's a build plan to hand the National Assembly back to Parliament, hopefully by the end of May 2026. That's the plan as it currently stands.
And importantly, you've called for bi-weekly updates on this. You're not letting this just happen slowly. You want to make sure this is on time.
Well, John, I think that history has shown that unfortunately, the state has not been able to deliver many projects on time and on budget. And I certainly don't want that to happen on my watch. So the only way to ensure that this happens on time and on budget is to receive these fortnightly reports. I will then make them available to the portfolio committee so that they can play additional oversight. But importantly, John, I want to make sure that I get a monthly cost schedule so that I can ensure that it runs on budget as well. Because what we can't afford is delays on budget, on the delivery, and we just simply can't afford for it to go over budget. So the only way to really get a grip on this is to be hands-on, and that's what I intend to do.
Minister, when I see the budget, 2.1 billion rand, my eyes water a little bit. Is it really that much?
Look, John, I went into the building myself. It is completely gutted. There's absolutely nothing left. It's being propped up by support just to hold the structure up at the moment. It is very delicate and very technical to at least maintain the facade of Parliament. And, Parliament's an important building because it actually tells a story of the history of South Africa. It's a timeline of our history. And if you're ever in Cape Town, I'm happy to give you a tour because it's quite fascinating.
Not if it's being propped up. I mean, I'll watch from the side.
Yeah, but it is extensive, the work that needs to be done. Of course, what we're waiting for is the bill of quantities, and that will then give us the final assessment. And I've told the contractors and also prospective contractors, John, that if you delay the build or if you go over the budget, that there's going to be penalties for you. We can't expect the public to pay for delays and for cost overruns. So I'm going to make sure that we get value for money and that we work within the budget that is presented to us.
Another story that you've been involved in, Minister, is KwaZulu-Natal Infrastructure MEC Martin Meyer, who found a bullet casing near his car. This is the construction mafia threats in KwaZulu-Natal. What's the latest there?
Yes, I've spoken to the MEC a number of times. Obviously, it's distressing to have conversations with colleagues like that. But that's, the force that we're up against, John. These are not people who are interested in progress. They're not interested in seeing services and infrastructure delivered to the people of South Africa. The only thing that they care about is filling up their bank accounts. And these are well-organized criminal networks that are terrorizing our country and need to be treated as such. So, I've really wanted just to offer my support and strength to MEC Meyer. I know that he's made of stuff stronger than concrete, and we're not going to allow this intimidation to derail the plans that we have to turn South Africa and KZN into a construction site.
It's expanding. We've heard about it in the Western Cape, these construction mafias. Now KwaZulu-Natal, also in some of the northern provinces as well. What's being done police-wise about these?
Well, John, I obviously rely heavily on the police ministry. So I'm hoping that myself and the minister will be able to meet soon. And then I want to get our MECs on board and premiers, because we're going to have a coordinated and unified approach to this scourge. I do think that if you look at what's happened in the city of Cape Town, they've done the right thing. They've capacitated law enforcement. They've made additional resources available to them. They've offered rewards for information. and the alleged masterminds behind a hit that took place on a city official for standing up to them is now in jail awaiting trial. That's what we need to see. We need to see people in prison, because that will then send the strong message to this mafia that we're not afraid of them. They belong in prison, not disrupting our projects.
And finally, when you came into your position as Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, famously said you want to turn the country into construction sites. Have you engaged with the players? Are we going to see cranes all over soon?
Well, look, I mean, these things are incremental and change happens over time, but we're starting that process, John. We are engaging with at least our regulatory authorities. I'm meeting with Infrastructure South Africa today in Johannesburg to continue to look at how do we make sure that we reduce red tape and we make it easier for the private sector to invest in our infrastructure build, and that ultimately we're able to get shovels in the ground as quickly as possible. It's something that I and the department are entirely animated about. And yesterday I addressed about 1,000 of our employees in Pretoria, and I just can see that they are dedicated to this project. So that's what we're obsessed with at the moment. We need to make sure that we get the fundamentals right so that there is transparency and trust in what we want to do. And if we do that, we'll attract private sector investment, because that's the only way that we can do it, John. Without the private sector partnering with us, it's going to be very difficult. So I want to make sure that they are on board.
You did get criticism about wanting to curtail spending on cabinet members, government homes and offices while you're in charge. What sort of feedback are you getting at the moment?
Well, actually, John, I think that, I've received a lot of support by South Africans, because they want to see that we dedicate as much money as possible to our infrastructure build that gets the economy growing, that can create jobs. I've had many interactions with my colleagues in Cabinet. They understand the position that we find ourselves in. I think that everyone is very comfortable with the process going forward. So, I'm dedicated to that job. I know that Cabinet is dedicated towards turning the economy around. And we're going to have to start, on the nice to haves, and making sure that our money is focused on the most important aspects of our job. And that's to serve the people of this country, get our economy going, and create those jobs that are desperately needed.
Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Dean McPherson, thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
It's Truck Month at Ford, and that means one thing. You save big when you upgrade to a 4x4. For a limited time only, get a Ford range of 4x4 from only $8,599 per month. Visit your nearest Ford dealer to get the best deal on a range of 4x4 from only $8,599 per month with free 4x4 driver training. T&Cs apply.
Oscar and Emmy winner Kevin Costner is John Dutton, a sixth-generation homesteader and devoted father. John controls the largest contiguous ranch in the United States, operating in a corrupt world where politicians are compromised by influential oil and lumber corporations and where land grabs make developers billions. Shifting alliances, unsolved murders, open wounds, and hard-earned respect puts Dutton's property in constant conflict with those it borders, an expanding town, an Indian reservation, and America's first national park. Channel your inner drama with Yellowstone, Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Are you a small business owner that wants to give your company a bit of a boost? Well, you're in luck. SAfm's Business Booster is back, giving local enterprises a chance to fly high. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za. Tell us about your business, and you could be one of 6 winners to receive 10 return flights and exposure across our social and digital channels. It's our way of celebrating homegrown talent that fuels our nation. SAfm, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
SAfm values your views. Be an active citizen.
21 minutes past 7 o'clock. On Monday, Transnet provided an update on their progress in restructuring the state-owned enterprise. There's going to be a number of changes. Let's find out what those are and how it'll affect you and I. Masela Nhlapo is the CEO for the Railroad Association. Masela, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. The big thing that jumps out at me is the doors will be open for private entities to operate within the national network. What does that mean?
Good morning. As the African Rail Industry Association, we've been working hard with government from the days of having the national rail policy put in place. And the national rail policy is basically the blueprint for all the development work that we see unfolding now. And we've been working hard to ensure that there is that necessary partnership between private and government. And hence there's been, from the 2020, the president announced the economic reconstruction and recovery plan. And in 2020, it was then announced that government would allow third-party access onto the rail network. For us, it's not much about competition. For us, it's about moving freight from road to rail. And in order for us to do that, it's important that we bring in private partners that will then complement what Transnet is already doing. So what is happening now is simply the work of a marriage between private sector and government.
Doesn't that increase costs if the private sector gets on board?
We don't expect that it will increase prices, but what we see that we expect that there will be an increased volumes of freight moving from our roads and preventing those unnecessary deaths to make sure that freight moves onto rail. In terms of pricing, we also have the economic regulator that has been put in place, and that economic regulator has been running public hearings to ensure that the majority of business and those that will directly affect and those that are indirectly affected ahead, so that when you have a regulator in place, that will then ensure that the prices that are being charged by public sector or private sector are reasonable in the best interest of the economy.
All right, so there's going to be a couple of changes now. There's going to be the rail operations, which is what we were talking about with the private sector, and then national managing the infrastructure, the people actually in charge of the railway lines. Two separate departments. Why was that needed?
It's needed because previously you would have TFR, Transnet Freight Rail, as an operator and an infrastructure manager. So if you bring in private sector, you need to have one body which is the infrastructure manager that will then be the one that provides access into the rail network for all parties. That will include Transnet Freight Rail and any other private operator. So as part of the vertical separation, it's important that is put in place, that vertical separation as government dictates so, and ensure that the vision and the implementation of the national rail policy is implemented.
Selling off non-core properties, is this what's needed? Do we not need those properties? And is this just a quick money-making scheme's the wrong word? Just a quick way to make a buck so that you can pay off some things?
Look, it's not a secret that Transnet finds itself in a very difficult situation. And I think that it's important that first we understand what are those non-core assets are and which that needs to be disposed. But also, I want to appeal to all creditors of Transnet. Please pay Transnet. We recently heard about the SIU case and Transnet with regards to a 2.8 billion of monies that Transnet and SIU claims that it needs to be paid back to them. So all we are appealing, we're saying that we've heard that the economy cost, the Transnet inefficiencies cost 1 billion rand a day to the economy. So let's say that 2.8 and then say round it off 3. So that 3 billion actually equates to what costs us as the economy by not having that money to ensure that it goes back to the infrastructure. Transnet has the funds to fix the infrastructure, and third-party access or private sector participation is materialized. So anyone that is out there that owes Transnet, it is critical for this economy to function. And please, anyone out there that owes Transnet money, please pay Transnet because they desperately need it.
Marcella Nhlapo, CEO for the Railroad Association.
SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
Just quickly before we go into the next interview, SAFTU General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi on the railroad says it's through public ownership that our historic demand for an affordable, reliable and safe transport system can be achieved for the poor working class majority, includes affordable planes, trains and buses. They saying that private ownership not necessarily going to work. Right, there's been an increase in how many people are in South Africa. We are now over 63 million. The important thing is life expectancy has increased. Solly Molai is the Acting Deputy Director General, Population and Social Statistics. Solly, good morning to you. Good news, we're living longer in South Africa.
Good morning, John, and morning to the listeners. Yes, indeed. When we look at the mid-year population estimates, which is the product that we are producing between censuses, as you know that we did our censuses in 2022, but because of census is so expensive, we can't do it on an annual basis. We have to have a product that can able to give you some population dynamics, which is your mortality, fertility, and migration. And you are correct. According to the numbers, we are living longer. So this is a life expectancy at birth. So we've seen that it has improved, and females are actually having a better life expectancy than males.
Yeah, females expected to live to 69.2 years, men just 63.6 years.
Yes.
It's okay. We'll remember that. Where people are moving around the country, which are the most popular provinces?
So Gauteng is still receiving a lot of people. So if you look at the net migration for Gauteng, we're sitting around 745,000. Cape Town or Western Cape is sitting around 300,000. So even if you look at the international migrants, Gauteng is still a preferred destination. When you look at provinces, Limpopo is the one that actually contributed to Gauteng. And this has to do with the economic strength of Gauteng.
People moving from the north. And finally, we talk about life expectancy, but one of the biggest issues is a very youthful population, and you don't have those the older people to support the youth. What is the current status with our youth and old people?
So yes, we are a youthful country, as you've mentioned, and what we have picked up is that when you look at the children, which is your age between 0 to 14, we noticed that Limpopo has the highest proportion of children under 15. Gauteng has the high proportion of youth and adults, which are 15 between 15 and 59. Your 60 plus, we see that they are mostly that proportion is mostly in Eastern Cape. And what we have seen is that your old age dependency per 100 it also has increased, and your child dependency is declined. So this is also a sign of a fertility rate that is also being declined over time.
Solly Molai, thank you very much. Acting Deputy Director General, Population and Social Statistics. 30% of the country's population are under 15 years old, and almost 10% are over 60 years old. The rest of us are working. You're with SAfm, it's 7:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chilwane is scheduled to attend the final day of disciplinary proceedings at the Pretoria High School for girls today. This following allegations of suspected racism that led to the suspension of 12 learners. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh and one of his bodyguards have been killed in the capital city of Iran. And the trial of 8 former members of the Presidential Protection Unit who allegedly assaulted 3 people on the N1 freeway last year will resume at the Randburg Magistrates Court this morning. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAfm. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Joburg's Mike 1 stays heavy. We've been keeping an eye on it this morning because it was already heavy just with congestion coming through from Ormonde up towards Braamfontein's Empire Road, but now it extends a queue right through to 11th Avenue, Houghton Estate, Killarney area. That's due to a crashing, quite a big one as well. So from Ormonde up through the Crown, through the double-decker, through Braamfontein, through Parktown, and up towards 11th Avenue. Very substantial backlogs through there. Ollie Fontaine out of Midrand from Blue Hills towards the highway. Heavy convoys again. And 2 work zones on the R21, one at Clayville causing a delay, and a new one that's going in this week on the R21 South, just through the Benoni exit. So an additional delay there on your way to the airport. Durban, a crash on the Southern Freeway at Merebank. It looks to be causing a delay coming through from Prospect, and the N2 North is queuing up onto the M4, and the M4 queues through to that crash unit. It's just before the Basel February Road. You'll know where that is if you do that route regularly. And there's a breakdown on the N2 South before Spaghetti Junction, so extra delays running south from Inanda Roadside this morning. Cape Town Marine Drive, super heavy coming from Bayside right through to Racecourse Road in the paddocks area of Milnerton. Also, there's just been quite a big crash on Jan Smuts Drive running south at Clifffontein Road. So if you're turning off the N2 on Jan Smuts going into Athlone, that's going to cause some delays for a little while and probably have an impact on the northbound side of Jan Smuts as well. And there's also a crash on the Hindle Road at Blue Downs just by Saxdown Road, causing some disruption as well. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai Khan, good morning to you. I love the fact that our small sports do so well at the Olympic Games.
Oh, yeah, rowing. Rowing. And it's an excitement, I tell you what. Paige Barnhorst making waves, heading straight into the semi-finals of the women's single sculls rowing events. She finished 4th in the quarterfinal, and that was the heat that ensured her spot in the next round. Now, the South African swimming star, Tatiana Smith, is set to make history at the Paris Olympics after securing gold in the women's 100-meter breaststroke final on Monday. She will compete in the heats of her favorite 200-meter breaststroke event today at 11 a.m., hoping for a final tomorrow. Meanwhile, 20-year-old Peter Kutsia will also return to the pool today for the men's 200-meter backstroke heat at 21 minutes past 11, hoping as well to advance to tomorrow's final. And triathlon news, organizers say that the men's and women's Olympic triathlons only have a 60% chance of going ahead today after the men's event was postponed yesterday. Tests of the River Seine in the early hours of yesterday morning revealed the water was not clean enough for the race to take place. It is now set to be held this morning at around 11:15. That's the men's event, and the women's event is scheduled to start at 8 a.m. South Africa's former Olympic medalists Henry Skuman and Jamie Riddle will compete in that men's triathlon, while Vicky van der Merwe is racing in the women's triathlon. Rugby action, the South African women's sevens team finished their maiden Olympics with a first win against Fiji, 21-15, and that was for the playoff match for 11th place. Coach Renfred Dazel says the road to the 2028 Olympics is soon to be laid out.
I think for us is going to be important. There will be 3 challenger tournaments this coming season, but we need to find invitational tournaments, the ones like in Dubai, where we can get quality games and quality opponents. And then also for us is to just get our player pool bigger and more quality and find more youngsters for the system for going forward. It will be another start of a building up for the next Olympics in 28. But I think where the system is now, there's 1 or 2 things that we're very proud of, that we have a full-time system and the girls can get coaching and training on a daily basis, and I think that is a big positive for us.
And it was the New Zealand women who defended their Olympic sevens title with a 19-12 victory over Canada as the United States bagged a surprise bronze. More rugby. The Springboks are gearing up for their rugby championship opener against the Wallabies in Brisbane on the 10th of August. Historically, Brisbane has been a challenging venue for the Boks with only one win in 12 professional era tests. And finally, gymnastics. Simone Biles led the United States to a dominant victory in the women's gymnastic team final. 3 years after Biles battled a disorientating mental block in Tokyo, pulling out of the team final in which the United States settled for silver, she and Team USA reclaimed gold ahead of Italy and Brazil taking bronze. Here's Biles.
So at the beginning of the day, I started off with therapy this morning, so that was super exciting. And then I told her I was feeling calm and ready, and that's kind of exactly what happened. But after I finished vault, I was relieved. I was like, whew, because at least no flashbacks or anything. But I did feel a lot of relief, and as soon as I landed vault, I was like, oh yeah, we're going to do this.
More sport. We're going to do this at 8 a.m. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAfm.
Ntauleng Lachela joins us again, our business reporter. What's been happening? Not much spending happening. That's the new numbers coming out.
Definitely, John. So yesterday we spoke about McDonald's and how consumers are finding their prices expensive. The fast food chain was even looking at introducing discount meals to entice cash-strapped customers. Another consuming-facing company is being hit by a pullback in spending, and it's a beverage maker, Diageo. The group reported its first decline in sales since the pandemic. Of course, this comes as consumers cut back on spending due to the high cost of living, which has been fueled by elevated inflation and interest rates. Over the 12 months to end June, Diageo's sales fell 1.4%, driven by a materially weaker performance in Latin America and the Caribbean. The group's biggest market, North America, also took a sales hit. Moving forward, company CEO Deborah Crew says the group is eyeing growth in developing markets as demographic trends and rising incomes could bode well for the alcohol industry.
And BHP has a new copper deal. That's good news.
So the race is on for miners around the world, John, to bag green metal assets. Now, green metals are special metals used to make clean energy products like solar panels and batteries that help reduce pollution and fight climate change. Now, they include metals like copper, nickel, and cobalt. And as we move into a more greener world, we've seen some of the biggest miners rush into that market to secure those kind of assets. As you mentioned, one of those latest deals is BHP's joint venture with London Mining. The two companies will be acquiring Toronto-listed Philo Corp, which owns 100% of the Philo del Sol copper project in South America. The deal has a price tag of $4.1 billion and aligns with BHP's copper growth strategy to buy early-stage copper projects as one of the levers to increase its exposure to future-facing commodities.
And what's happening in the markets this morning and into today?
Now, traders are assessing data out from China. Factory activity in that country contracted for a third straight month in July, adding to economic woes. The Bank of Japan, in the meantime, has hiked rates, shocking investors as they had anticipated a hold. With that, we're seeing China's Shanghai index up 1.9%, while Japan's Nikkei gains 0.15%. Moving over to Wall Street, futures are in mixed territory. Those markets will be waking up to Microsoft's earnings as the company released results yesterday after markets closed. Back at home, the JSE trading higher, taking cues from global peers. The all-share closed yesterday's trade up 0.23%. And moving over to the currency scene, a weaker dollar has boosted the rand, some strength coming through there, with the local unit trading at 18.31 to the dollar.
Ntauleng Lachela, thank you very much. More with Ntauleng again in an hour's time.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business.
Africa Update on SAfm.
Let's see what's happening around the continent. Advocate Sipho Mantula joins us. Advocate, good morning to you. What is France doing in Western Sahara?
A refreshing morning, John, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. John, as we look to the continent at the north part and look at France, France have shifted its stance on Western Sahara. There's a letter that Emmanuel Macron have sent to King Mohammed V of Morocco saying that they will want to go back to the proposed solution of 2007 in terms of where they wanted to allow Western Sahara to have a limited independence or autonomy under the sovereignty of Morocco, only on the basis to resolve this conflict that has been long-standing. But both Algeria and the Polisario Front came out very clear that it now seems that Morocco is trying now to go through the UN. It is trying to follow what many other countries like the US, Israel, Spain, and some other African countries that Morocco has been moving towards to win their support on this question of Western Sahara. So it is still not clear what is France's move now to support Morocco when we know that the issue of Western Sahara has been sitting for too long, both at the AU and at the United Nations level.
And tell me, it seems as if there might be good news in Sudan, this ongoing story.
That's quite true. We spoke about this issue of Sudan's mediation that is planned in Geneva next month. Actually, this week in August, where the US is sponsoring the peace talks between the Rapid Support Forces, the paramilitary group, and the Sudanese army. But it appears that the government is saying conditionally they accept this invitation, but they will engage once that day comes to deal with the Rapid Support Forces, how to resolve the conflict that has been in Sudan since last year, April 2023. There were special envoys who were raising this issue that both Egypt, United Arab Emirates, and the UN and the AU will be observers in these peace talks.
You can only hope. And what's happening in Guinea? I see there's little tweaks and changes to some things there.
General Mamadi Doumbouya is pushing now for the new draft constitution in Guinea-Conakry, as well as the limited presidential term limits. When you look at ECOWAS having went through the military coups, that Guinea is now trying to shape and shake their constitutional democracy by having a new constitution, by also limiting the presidential powers or term of office. Despite that, we still don't have the presidential election date being set in that country. If you recall, that country, Alpha Conde, was overthrown by the soldiers 3 years ago. But General Mamadi Doumbouya is still pushing that there might be elections in 2025.
Okay, can only hope. And some good news in the DRC as well.
Some good news in DRC, but coming through Luanda, through Angola, that the presidency of Angola has assured the international community that it means that there's a ceasefire that will begin this week on the 4th of August between the Eastern DRC and Rwanda in terms of having this ceasefire that will cease for too long, because we have the challenge of Congo accusing Rwanda of backing the M23, and which Rwanda denies, and you have the issue of humanitarian challenge where you have 1.7 million people who have been removed from their places of origin, and as well as the UN has been raising this issue of the Eastern DRC, that we need to have a permanent solution between the DRC and Rwanda. But it appears Angola's mediation is paying off. Remember, we spoke about Ruto failing the process in Nairobi process. Now it means Luanda process is giving some positive light between the Eastern DRC as well as Kigali, Rwanda.
And what happened on this day? What is it? 31st of July.
It's 20 years ago, John. When you look at our archives 30 years ago, we look back us on 20 years when Donato Francisco Matera went on a public stage saying that he's withdrawing from the public performances. Nobody knows what pushed the elder John Brazinga to say that he will not want to participate in government events or in private events. I think it was due to his state of health, but also he was very connected to his community of El Rado Park, to his community in Eastern Cape. And finally, for our listeners, if they want to learn more about Uncle Don Matera Brazinga, they can look at Memory is the Weapon, Gone with the Twilight, the story of Sophia Town. They passed this way and touched our lives. Azania love songs. Asante sana, John, for still in the conversation. SAfm observing Mandela Month.
Advocate Sibu Mantula, thanks very much.
There's listening to the news, then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. When you choose Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, you get access to our transactional banking solutions. Accessing our transactional banking solutions means you'll get a dedicated manager from the country's best relationship bank. When you have a dedicated relationship manager, their business is to understand your business and its financial needs. By understanding all your needs, they can connect you with the right sector and product experts across 15 key African markets. You see, there's transactional banking, then there's transactional banking with us. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Coming up in a moment, we're going to talk to Action Society, who say that the Blue Light Mafia defense are wasting time with bizarre cross-examinations. First, Eunice wants to talk about Russia at the Olympic Games. Eunice in Johannesburg, go ahead.
Yeah, hi there, John. John, you had a caller earlier on who spoke about why Russia has been banned from the Olympics,
Yes.
and he was correct. Russia has been banned from the Olympics. You said previously it was because of doping currently. Previously, they were banned because of doping. In the current Olympics, Russia and Belarus have been banned because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. So therein comes the double standard, like the caller said, because why is Israel allowed to participate in the Olympics, and yet Russia has been banned? So Russian and Belarusian athletes can go in as individual athletes without carrying their country's flags. The same thing happened at Euro 2024. Russia has been banned there exactly for the same reason, that because of the invasion of Ukraine, but yet Israel is allowed to participate. So therein comes the double standards of the sporting codes of this world.
Russia at the Tokyo Olympic Games were banned because of the Olympic Games because of its state-sponsored doping program.
Yes.
That's the end of the story.
In the current Olympics?
State-sponsored doping program.
For the current one?
Yes.
Not for the invasion of Ukraine?
No. Russia is banned. Russia and Belarus are banned because of a state-sponsored doping program.
And nothing to do with the invasion of Ukraine?
No.
I've read the official statement.
Share it with us. It would be a pleasure if you could share that with us, please.
Well, Google it, John.
No, I want to share it with us. You've read it, so you're more than welcome to share it with us. You've got our WhatsApp number.
Well, I've read it there, and I've read it on 3 different places, and exactly what they say there. Exactly what they say. They've been banned because of the invasion of Ukraine.
They've been banned from the IRC because of a state-sponsored doping program. If you can share other information with us, I'd be more than happy to read it. Love to read it, so send it to us.
I've Googled it. I've read it.
No, sure you have, but share it with us. Share it with us, Eunice. I'm more than happy.
But
you've got our number.
So anyway, while we're there, just someone lastly might say, pass my condolences to the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, who was assassinated. He was directly involved in the ceasefire and hostage negotiations, and he was assassinated this morning in Tehran. All I can say is farewell to him. Ambagate.
Eunice in Johannesburg, thank you very much. It's 12 minutes to 8.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
Hi, my name is Jackie. I'm 35 years old from Pretoria, and I only pay 691 Rand for my 2022 Ford EcoSport with OUTsurance Comprehensive.
What makes the best car insurer? The best price with awesome service, right? SMS out to 30754 to see if you can pay less, experience awesome service, and see for yourself why OUTsurance was voted best car insurer by many publications and best car, home, and business insurer at the News 24 Awards for the past 2 years.
I'm not surprised they won all the awards because in my experience they are excellent.
They walk the talk. They actually do what they say and they follow through on their promises.
SMS out to 30754 and see for yourself. Experience awesome. Go to outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
It's going to be a hot women's hockey battle between South Africa and Great Britain in Pool B. Mzansi Africa's plans are to fight hard from the first whistle to the end. But their opponents, GBR, believe they will deliver a touch of great class. This is the Olympic Games Paris 2024. South Africa tackles Great Britain on Wednesday, 31 July at 10:30 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport is the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes.
For the love of the game.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning, Joburg's Mike 1 South stays heavy today. Not only the normal peak hour congestion coming up through Crown into Parktown, but a crash scene up by 11th Avenue. Seems to be a big enough collision that's also having an impact on the southbound side as well. So the northbound from Ormonde right through to 11th Avenue is jammed. Houghton Drive up through the Wilds in towards the Mike 1 is heavy, trying to get into that queue. And southbound traffic coming from Melrose down into that Parktown area very slow as well. The N3 South from Edenvale down into Gillooly is very busy. N12 and R24 routes, heavy jams coming into Gillooly for motorists arriving in from the Ekurhuleni side. And there's two sections being worked on the R21, one at Clayville, which you'll know about, and another set down before Pomona Road, both of those holding you up towards the airport. Durban, a crash on the Southern Freeway this morning, going into Durban just by Basil February, so Merebank area, holding up traffic from the old airport on the N2 north to split onto that M4. Still got the breakdown before Spaghetti Junction, so the run south from Inlander Road stays pretty heavily backed up. And Cape Town today, a lot of traffic pressure out of Tableview, the Marine Drive option from Bloberg down towards the Racecourse Road junction by the Paddocks is very slow. Kuberg Road's queuing up through Joe Slovo Park section of Milnerton, and if you're around the Epping area, there's quite heavy traffic on Viking Way. That's a jam both ways between the N7 and Jan Smuts Drive. Also quite a big crash on Jan Smuts Drive going south into Clifffontaine Road in the Athlone area. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
Winners, finalists, fan favorites, and viral sensations from previous seasons of America's Got Talent return to the stage to compete for the All-Star title. Join Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell as they decide who is the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top dog, is in Tamatota. It's a festival of talent on America's Got Talent All-Stars. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. Channel your best entertainment with America's Got Talent All-Stars. Only on S3. Open up.
Are you a small business owner that wants to give your company a bit of a boost? Well, you're in luck. FlySafair's Business Booster is back, giving local enterprises a chance to fly high. Simply enter at flysafair.co.za. Tell us about your business, and you could be one of 6 winners to receive 10 return flights and exposure across our social and digital channels. It's our way of celebrating homegrown talent that fuels our nation. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
High emotions and tension will prevail from the early moments of the contest between Spain and South Africa in the men's Pool A. The Europeans want to add the sound of a Spanish guitar in their game plan, but the African stars from Mzansi refuse to drop their heads. This is the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Spain battles it out with South Africa on Wednesday, 31 July at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport is the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes.
For the love of the game.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, I've had a little time. Let me update you on what I understand is happening with the Russian athletes at Paris. Initially, Russia's athletes were banned from competing at the Summer Games because of the invasion of Ukraine. That was in February 22. But the IOC has reversed that decision and said that they will allow Russian athletes to compete if they meet strict criteria. Vladimir Putin has said that that's ethnic discrimination. So the IOC's executive board announced that Russian athletes can compete at the Olympic Games as we are seeing them, but they will be known as athletes individual neutral. individual neutral athletes, INAs. They're required to qualify for the Games, pass a vetting check by the International Sports Federation, such as World Athletics and the International Gymnastics Federation, and then by the IOC. The IOC is an individual neutral athlete eligibility review panel to evaluate eligibility against the conditions they set out, including not being allowed to actively support the war in Ukraine or being contracted to the Russian military or national security agencies. So that's the latest that I have. So Eunice, I apologize to you. The doping is part of it, but also the war in Ukraine is part of it. It's all very complicated. You're more than welcome to engage with me and help me and educate me. It's 5 minutes to 8 o'clock.
You are listening to John Gericka on SAfm.
Let's take some more calls. 086 000 2032. Let's push that button. Let's go to Patrick in Maritzburg. How's it, Patrick?
Hi, Jono. Thank you. But I was just thinking about that chap, Yunus, who called in.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I want to say I'm so pleased that Hamas leader was killed. And Hamas they'll all be taken out by Israel. But the second thing I wanted to say, Jono, was that why must Israel be banned? They didn't invade any country, Jono.
Patrick, I'm just going to let you have your say and let other people agree or disagree with you, because there are a number of issues that I have with that. So I'm going to let you have your say and let other people have their say on what you have to say, because we could talk about that for days. Prophet OJ is in my king. Hello, Prophet.
Good morning, my dear. How are you?
It's John. How's it? Go ahead.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. And my name is Prophet OJ. I'm saved by the blood of God, Jesus Christ. I want to comment on the construction mafia.
Mm-hmm.
John, this thing has been there all the years. Governments all over the world are under the threat of the mafias, whether it is construction, whether it is on other areas. But I'm telling you, where there is money involved, like governments, that they are the custodians of the money of the public. The construction mafia is a syndicate. And unfortunately, some of these mafias are people who are highly placed in strategic positions in government and even in executive positions of big companies. So these guys, they want nothing but money. And then where money is involved, the mafias are always operational. Mm-hmm. And they apply the power, which is called the satanic power. What do? They hack the minds of the people who are in authority.
Satanic power.
Yes,
right.
They hack their minds. A computer, when it is hacked, John is able to do the things in my computer which are secretly operated. They can hack your mind and make you to sign documents which you know very well that this is corruption, but you sign it because there is a pressure from these guys on you. This mafia is syndicated, a very, very big syndicate, John.
Prophet in OJ saying that the construction mafia are satanic power. Hassan in Johannesburg, go ahead.
I wanted to follow up on this issue. I wrote an article for some local papers regarding the double standards. I mean, it is clear, and as you correctly fixed up your problems, is that there's a double standard at play here, where Israel has occupied large tracts of land, and it's recognized now by the ICJ ruling, and they still play. And essentially, I think that the reasoning is that, as President Roosevelt said about General Somoza may be a son of a something, but it's our son of a this, and that kind of double standard in the international sports world is actually not doing well for athletes.
What would you like to see happen, Hassan?
Well, I really think that for the mass killings in Gaza, in Palestine as a whole, that I really think Israel has no right to participate in international sport.
So you ban Israel as well?
Well, if you ban others, if you ban Russia to play under a neutral flag, the rules must apply. It was a swift decision.
No, I get it. I just want to know what you want to happen. So you ban Israel. Do you ban all Sudanese athletes?
Listen, that's you must look at the issues of whether there's an aggressor or whether it's a civil war. I mean, it's difficult, but it's not the first country. I mean, there are many countries that have been banned, even Germany.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just want to know what you think should happen, and who makes that decision.
Well, the Olympic body, I think, is also beholden to main powers, and I think there's a bit of a problem. It's too much money politics. I think the Olympic values are being lost, but that's another discussion we should have.
Well, that's the discussion, Hassan, isn't it? It's all about the Olympic values.
Yeah, no, but it's about money. It's just big money has taken over, and it's geopolitics. The idea of playing to celebrate all the early values from the early years are all gone. It's just big corporate money. People are in the army. How many people of many of these athletes are linked to armies, even the Israeli one?
Hassan in Johannesburg saying Olympic values are gone. What do you think? We'll hopefully have more time for calls after the news at 8 o'clock.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, Hamas reacts to death of its leader Ismail Haniyeh and former VIP protection unit officers back in court. Good morning. Hamas has vowed to punish those responsible for the death of its leader Ismail Haniyeh, killed in an Israeli raid on his residence in the Iranian capital Tehran. Haniyeh was in Iran for the inauguration of the Iranian president. The BBC's Yolanda Nell has more details.
Last night, Ismail Haniyeh, who was from Gaza but had lived in Qatar for several years, was with the heads of other regional armed groups backed by Iran at a ceremony for the swearing-in of the country's new president. Few details have been given about the attack which killed him and a bodyguard, but it would have been carefully planned. Israel's military says it doesn't comment on reports in foreign media. But one Hamas official has called this assassination a grave escalation. It's unclear as yet what effect this will have on the course of the war in Gaza, but Ismail Haniyeh had been overseeing talks on a new ceasefire and hostage release deal.
Disciplinary proceedings at the Pretoria High School for Girls are expected to conclude today. This follows allegations of suspected racism that led to the suspension of 12 learners. On the first day of the proceedings, the department took swift action by removing 8 of the 12 suspended learners who held prefect positions from their leadership roles. MEC Chilwane, who attended the proceedings yesterday, says the school's principal has been suspended for a period of 3 months, pending the outcome of an investigation.
The principal knew about this matter from last year, 2023. There was a report, and there was no action taken then. That's where we are with the principal, that you knew, and you knew the gravity of this situation, and you left it. So this is where we are with the principal. Yes, I'm worried that one of the learners, some of them are matriculants, but we will have a program. There should be a program that's structured around how the learner is supported outside the process. But they should be understood that there is always repercussion for action.
The trial of 8 former members of the Presidential Protection Unit who allegedly assaulted 3 people on the N1 freeway last year will resume at the Randburg Magistrates Court this morning. Video footage of the incident went viral on social media. The case has been postponed numerous times. The officers were granted 10,000 Rand bail last year August. Pusuletso Mukwena reports.
8 police officers in the dock were responsible of the protection of Deputy President Paul Mashatile when the incident occurred. The defense has put it to the witness that the VIP protection officers saw the witness' car as a threat to the vehicle that was transporting Mashatile. However, the witness disputed the evidence.
The Bloemfontein Magistrates Court has dismissed harassment and defamation charges against the SAPS whistleblowers Patricia Morgan Mashale and husband George Mashale. They were charged with harassment after the Deputy Provincial Police Commissioner, Major General Soli Lisia, opened a criminal case against them for alleged breach of a harassment order he had obtained against them over WhatsApp messages. The magistrate found the state's case relied on hearsay and had no authentic evidence. The case lasted for almost a year since it started in August last year. Patricia has described the court judgment as a bittersweet moment.
It's a relief. It's
It's really a bittersweet moment. I've been waiting for this day for so long. And finally, I'm vindicated. You heard what the court say. There was no crime, there was no charges, there was nothing. We were dragged before court because of people were misusing state resources, because of people abusing their powers who thought they had a law unto themselves.
And finally, crime expert Lizette Lancaster says the so-called tender mafia groups are a growing threat to emerging contractors doing business with government. This follows the recent kidnap and brutal murders of 5 men, alleged to be from a group known as Boko Haram from Mamelodi, east of Pretoria. It's believed they were abducted on their way to Mamelodi following an altercation at a construction site. They were tortured and killed. The group reportedly went to a road construction site to demand a 30% stake in the project or face disruption. Lancaster explains.
These directives aim to transform the economy by empowering historically disadvantaged individual and small, medium and micro enterprises. They require that winners of state tenders over 30 million subcontract at least 30% of the contract's value to small local developers to undertake construction work. These regulations have been deliberately misinterpreted by criminal groups who demand 30% share of state and non-state construction projects. Often cash payments are claimed.
Recapping the top story, Hamas has vowed to punish those responsible for the death of its leader. Ismail Haniyeh killed in an Israeli raid on his residence in the Iranian capital, Tehran. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Your insurer makes many promises, but can they back it up? Outsurance can. That's why they're the best insurance company in South Africa. Outsurance has consistently had the best ombudsman for short-term insurance results for the past 11 years and awarded Best Short-Term Insurer by News24 for the past 2 years. Why would you want to be with anyone else? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Or visit outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information are online.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The Mike 1 stays heavy. An earlier crash at Killarney looks like it's probably out of the way, but there's been a really big backlog of just busy traffic conditions. At the moment, you're going to hit traffic from Boysons all the way through to Grayston Drive territory. The N3 is heavy going southbound, queuing up from Modderfontein Road to Galulis. It's been like that since about 6 o'clock this morning. Still trying to determine what's at the root cause of that. Durban side, the M4 Southern Freeway crashed just before Basel, February, causing some delays as you turn off the N2 into that Merebank area. And then traffic all over the N2. There's some queuing pressure between Umlazi and Chatsworth. And then from the cement factory, it's all backed heavily right through towards the Westwood Mall into the roadwork area. Cape Town, N7, Goodwood through to Bosmansdam Road stays heavy. The N2 inbound is queuing from around about Langa through towards Hospital Bend. And the M5, not as bad as it was first couple of days of this week, but still some pressure from Kenilworth through to the N2 highway. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAfm Sports headlines. Let me just tell you there's plenty of South Africans in action today. Henry Skuman and Jamie Riddle will be targeting triathlon glory as Team South Africa competes in multiple events. And let's not forget Tatiana Smith is back in action in the swimming pool, aiming for a breaststroke double. We'll bring you the details at around 8:30.
Getting ahead of the morning with hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
It's 9 minutes past 8 o'clock. Yeah, the message has been sent. The information has been sent. I've read it. Thank you very much. I've apologized to Eunice. I've hopefully corrected myself. If I haven't, then we will talk about this. We've got time. Let's talk about the Olympic Games. Russia, Israel. It's plenty more. You can give us a call, 086 000 2032. I see the debates on Twitter as well. You're more than happy to get involved. Let's now talk about the Blue Light Mafia. This is the case in the Randburg Magistrates Court, the VIP Protection Unit, making a case from the still images of the highway gantries captured of the assault and the validity of the victim's driver's license. Let's find out a little bit more with Juanita Dupré, Action Society spokesperson. Juanita, is Action Society saying that the defense is wasting time?
Yes, we have seen that they are wasting time in the disciplinary hearing, which has been postponed more than 5 times already, 4 of them only this year. In the court case, now we have this questioning, which seems a bit bizarre. They're showing images which doesn't really prove anything. So it's been ongoing for more than a year. The witness and his girlfriend as well cannot continue with their lives. They are soldiers and they can't go for deployments. They can't do courses because they keep getting pulled back, having to go to disciplinary hearings, having to go to court. Their life is in a standstill. It's got a financial implication for them. It's got an emotional implication for them. So yes, we do think it is a ploy to waste time so that they will give up. But we know that they won't.
Questions about who was being protected by the VIP security has been raised as well. Why would they do that?
Because the Deputy President Mashatili's spokesperson said at first, he said no, he wasn't in the convoy. Now all of a sudden he was in the convoy, according to the defense. And yesterday, we don't know if it was a slip of the tongue, but it was mentioned that it was now the president who was in the convoy. So yeah, it's the facts don't come together, and that's not the point of the whole court case. The court case is this witness was abused, dragged from his car, hit, kicked, and left unconscious next to the road while they drove off. And what we want to know is, when will this treatment stop? Are we supposed to be afraid, or as public road users, when will we be next?
And the driver's license as well. Do you think that, obviously, you assume that the magistrate and the judge will see through this?
Yes, we really do hope that they will see through it, because they've not brought any concrete facts. And the witness has been excellent on the stand, even though he is quite emotional because he's still traumatized. But they haven't brought any concrete facts. If they say he doesn't have a driver's license, then they should bring the facts. But the point is not him having a driver's license or not. The point is the abuse that he suffered.
And you're still not sure who's paying for this defense?
No, we brought the PIA application in May. We've asked the question before, and that's why we had to go to the PIA route. And we've received the receipt to say that they are working on it, but we've not received any response yet. So we don't know who is paying. If they earn a police officer's salary, and the court has been the case has been postponed so many times, where's the money coming from for their legal representation?
Ongoing story. Action Society spokesperson Juanita Dupré, thank you very much.
Explore the family drama and legacy of one of the most powerful royal families in South Africa, the Mukwebos. This is Mubango, 30 Years of Democracy, Season 1 and Season 2. See how it all began, from when a king suddenly dies, leaving behind 2 wives, one from a customary marriage and the other from a civil union, coming full circle to the coronation of one of his sons. Mubango Season 1 and Season 2, Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. on SABC 2. You belong.
And we will buy 500 cars, and we will buy 500 more. Just to be the one who buys your car, will come to you and offer more. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da. We buy cars, we buy cars. Da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-dun-da-da-da-da. We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
High emotions and tension will prevail from the early moments of the contest between Spain and South Africa in the men's Pool A. The Europeans want to add the sound of a Spanish guitar in their game plan, but the African stars from Zanzibar refuse to drop their heads. This is the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Spain battles it out with South Africa on Wednesday, 31 July at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and reports on SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport is the proud broadcaster of the Olympic Games Paris 2024. Hashtag the global battle of great athletes.
For the love of the game.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
8:15, the Green Connection has welcomed Total Energy's recent announcement to abandon 2 of the 4 blocks it has exploration and production rights to in South Africa. Lisa Makula is the advocacy officer at the Green Connection. Lisa, why are you celebrating the fact that they've pulled out?
Hi, John, and thank you for having me. First of all, I must say that we welcome the fact that they abandoned 11B and 12B, as they also mentioned that they are abandoning 567, as we are still having a litigation on 567 after they received environmental authorization, and 18 appeals were dismissed, which were basically raising issues that the project could potentially pose to the environment as well as coastal livelihoods. But at the same time, I mean, one of the reasons why we are happy with the decision is because from an environmental perspective, this is very good, but at the same time, we've noted that we've been seeing that when it comes to the International Energy Agency, they've been stating that, I mean, as countries, there's no need for us to be investing in oil and gas because we could have assets that could become stranded in the near future, as most of the countries are transitioning away from fossil fuel projects to the green economy.
That was going to be my next question. Do we not need this fuel to survive? Do we not need the money that this will bring in from taxes?
I mean, from an economic perspective, when we are speaking of climate change, the Reserve Bank governor has recently highlighted in the news yesterday when he was delivering a speech that climate change has more consequences when it comes to the economy. It does affect it negatively, and people in the communities have been bearing the brunt of climate change. So when we speak of such projects, they do contribute to climate change, and gas has been proven to be 20 times more potent than carbon dioxide over a 20-year period. So our concern comes from that angle. But in terms of how the project would have helped economically, we really do not know. But from an environmental perspective, we're just happy that, communities and their livelihoods, those that depend on oceans for a living, it is actually protected.
How big are these blocks, and how many more are still possibly going to be explored?
I mean, Total is not out in South Africa. I'm sure you've seen the statements from the energy, from DMR now, it's called DMR. They are not out completely. They are still looking into exploration further in the Northern Cape, which is another block closer to the Namibian border. So, we can't say they are totally out. And at the same time, we are not saying these companies, they must leave South Africa. No, that's not what we are saying. But we are simply saying they must divert their investments to sustainable energy projects, because if we signed climate commitments to halve our emissions by 2030, then this is like a good era for them to start now shifting, and rethinking their strategies and putting money in projects that are going to be beneficial for us in the near future.
Have you got backing from all the coastal communities as well? Are their voices being heard?
Definitely. For them, this is victory, and they are very happy at the moment. But we cannot say Total is out, and we just hope that this is going to make them rethink their strategy as we are moving away, from industries that are heavily reliant on fossil fuels. And it's even worse that South Africa was listed as one of the 15 global emitters. So I think it's really high time that we start taking decisions that are going to be beneficial for everyone. And we have been seeing how climate change has been having impacts. Speaking of KZN, not something that is far away. Speaking of just KZN, people have been, impacted very badly. So I think it would be great if, this would mean that these companies are rethinking strategies in investing now in sustainable energy projects such as renewable energy. And South Africa has quite good heat and wind when it comes to that. So it has potential, of such projects.
Lisa Makaola, thank you very much. Advocacy Officer at the Green Connection.
Thank you.
Keeping you informed and ready for the day ahead on #SAfm Breakfast.
20 minutes past 8 o'clock. Now, the Council of Geoscience has extended its heartfelt congratulations to Eskom and its leadership on the successful approval to extend the life of the Koeberg nuclear power plant. Isn't this maybe a little bit more of a worry? Let's find out with Dr. Tafiq Danse, Manager of Minerals and Energy at the Council for Geoscience. We're still getting the doc on the line. We're still waiting for the doc to answer. So, this Koeberg has been going on for decades now, and I thought it had reached its end of life. It's going to go on until 2044 now. The extension of Koeberg's operating license is going through till 2044. Also coming up, we're hoping to have some time to take more calls, extend the conversation, and we're going to have reaction to the electricity minister on his update. When was that? On Monday, where he was talking about a number of things. He did raise the issue of this extra fee that cities are charging so that they can maintain the infrastructure, and it's on prepaid meters as well. He also raised the issue of it's not called load shedding, was it? It's I forget the name. It's just slipped out of my mind. Where they cut off load reduction. There we go, load reduction. So, it's an ongoing conversation. We'll have a little bit more of that later on. Let's go first to Mdu in Mpumalanga. Hello, Mdu.
Morning, John. How are you?
Lekker, go ahead.
I'm good, man. And welcome to SAfm.
Thank you. I've been here for a while.
Yeah. John, I want to go back to your earlier comments about the Russian and the Belarusian athletes. Yeah, no, I got disturbed a bit. I understand that you did come back on air.
I corrected myself, yes.
Yes. But next time, John, please, before you say no to callers, make sure that you get your facts correct, because this is national radio. So
I hear what you're saying. It's a very valid point, and I thank you very much, Mundu, for doing it that way instead of criticizing me like a lot of people have done already. For the information I had at the time, that was what I believed. So yes, you're right. I've learnt my lesson, Mundu. I have hopefully corrected myself and brought out the other facts. But thank you very much for raising that point.
All right. No, I appreciate it, because we want to continue listening to you with confidence.
I'll do my best, Ndu. I can do so much. Ndu and Mpumalanga. Thank you very much. Yeah, I know the voice notes have gone mad as well, and the phone calls have gone mad as well. So, thank you very much for that response. Let's go to that nuclear power plant story now. The Council for Geoscience has extended its congratulations to Eskom for that approval to the extension of the life of Koeberg. Dr. Tafiq Danse is the Manager of Minerals and Energy at the Council for Geoscience. Doc, thanks very much for joining us. Aren't we a little worried that Koeberg is way beyond its expected lifetime?
Hi, morning, John, and morning to the listeners. Well, I think maybe the concept to keep in mind is that, the plan 40 years ago when Koeberg was designed was that we would eventually transition to alternative energy sources, newer technologies. But unfortunately, we do find ourselves in a time where, we have this increasing energy crisis, and we do now need to maximize the value out of the existing plants. So it does not necessarily mean that the plant is not functional anymore, but it's just that we now will continue for another 20 years and just make sure that everything, checks out in terms of its engineering design.
Obviously, in congratulating Eskom and the other engineers there, you're happy that Koeberg is safe to run for another 20 years.
Yeah, so as the Council for Geoscience, our participation was specifically with regards to a probabilistic seismic hazard. So in gaining this extension, there was quite a number of issues that had to be addressed in terms of licensing requirements. So we specifically looked at the geological characteristics. So this includes what is the likelihood of any type of seismic or any geohazard from occurring, and whether or not Koeberg is up to scratch in terms of being able to deal with that with regard to the engineering and design. And fortunately, this type of science went out for international peer review. And it came back quite positive to show that geologically, Koeberg should be fine for another 20 years.
And we told about the sea rising all the time. Did you bring it? Did you look at that, or is that somebody else's department?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So when we look at these type of possible seismic hazards or geohazards, we have to look at, how the geological plates would respond to any type of increasing stress and how this might affect rising sea levels, and what does this mean for the engineering design. And I mean, keep in mind that part of the engineering design is to look at, possible worst case scenarios. So basically there's a level of over engineering to take into account of, these type of, absolute worst case scenarios.
So when they built this thing, they built it proper.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, a lot of the information that they had 40 years ago, keep in mind that Koeberg, the design probably started in the early 1970s. And this was very soon after the large earthquake, the 1969 earthquake in Cape Town. So that type of information would have gone into, the design. And I mean, subsequently for the last 40 years, we've been quite fortunate because we've been able to monitor all this seismicity and potential geohazards, and fortunately nothing has happened for the last 40 years.
Doc, there is talk about bringing nuclear back into South Africa. Are we stable enough now that you mention all these geosciences? Northern Cape is maybe the talk. Does it have to be near water, and are those all stable enough around the country?
Yeah, so the Council for Geoscience is mandated to basically have a national seismic network. So what this means is that we have very sensitive devices that are located all around the country, and it actually measures in real time, this type of stress accumulation and seismic hazard essentially, and any type of movement of the plates. So what we can see from this data is that there are several locations around the coast that does appear to be highly suitable for nuclear development.
On another note, Doc, these tremors and things that we're having in Johannesburg, there seem to be more of them now again. Is that something we should be worried about?
Not entirely. So there's another factor of as we increase our development, these tremors are felt more often. That's the one thing. But in addition to that, we do have a very, very dense network. We call this the mine cluster network. So in areas where we find lots of let's call it anthropogenic activity, we tend to have a much more dense seismic network, and we do see that a lot of these events can be linked to mining. But we do see that in the monitoring of these events, they remain relatively small. And the key important aspect here is that we make sure that these seismic activities or these events we're feeling does not go across the engineering design threshold of the of the infrastructure.
Dr. Tafiq Danse, thank you very much. Manager of Minerals and Energy, the Council of Geosciences. That extension to Koeberg going to 2044.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Take calls. We'll take some of your voice notes as well. More than welcome to send us a voice note. 0614 104 107. Look forward to hearing those. You can also call 086 000 2032. Say it again, 086 000 2032. We'll get all of those up and running. We're going to take some voice notes. I think we are. Let's go to voice notes. Population numbers.
Yeah, John, the growing of the South African population is alarming and is also concerning. Now recently it was about 62 million, now suddenly it's 63. And then the counting as well leaves much to be desired. It's very, we are doubtful about the accurate counting of South African population. And then also the population grows. But now, job creation also it's the problem. So we are heading for disaster. Thank you. It's Willie here in Kuma.
Thank you, Willie. Ernest in Cape Town. Morning.
Good morning. It's John.
Yes, John. Go ahead. Yep.
John, hi. Man, the reason for my call is, about all this hype going on in the schools about racism.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I heard yesterday, remember the thing about the children that was locked up in a cage?
Yes.
Right. Now, I haven't heard anyone ask, were the children forced into the cage? Or did they go in there willingly? Was it a play or was it anything? Government You know what is happening? They blame teachers and they blame the parents for racism. Government itself, the ANC itself, is to blame. You remember they took away the rights of the parents as well as the teachers. They were also talking about children cannot read. If a child doesn't write, why is it a teacher? If the child doesn't want to do anything in the classroom, there's nothing the teacher can do. She can phone the parent and tell the parent, but there's nothing the parent can do if the child doesn't want to. Because what happened now, government says the children belong to them. I don't know when they made these kids. They say the children belongs to them. So government must stop blaming other people when they have taken the rights away of these parents. Then the other thing about racism, the ANC spokesperson made comments about colored people. They are drunkards and they are all these kinds of things. No one says, do you know how many racist things going on about colored people? Not a word is said about colored people. I phoned the Human Rights Commission about this when this came out. You know what they told me? No, it was just a joke. If I, as a colored person, make a joke like that, then I'm called in front of the courts. No one makes any comments when colored people are being racist. And racism is not just in white people, it's not just in colored people, it's in blacks as well.
Ernest in Cape Town, thank you very much. What do you make of his comments? You can give us a call, 086 000 2032. It's 8:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, 5 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police at Cato Crest in Durban. KwaZulu-Natal police have confirmed the suspects have been wanted for a string of murder and business robbery cases. Hamas has vowed to punish those responsible for the death of its leader, Ismail Haniyeh, killed in an Israeli raid on his residence in the Iranian capital, Tehran. And disciplinary proceedings at the Pretoria High School for Girls are expected to conclude today. This follows allegations of suspected racism that led to the suspension of 12 learners. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
If you're in a hurry to get through top of Joburg in towards Midrand or for a turn up to Pretoria, you might want to avoid the Buccleuch interchange. There's some real pressure that's built up on the highway off-ramps on that ramp that takes you on to the M1 towards Allendale. So N1 from Ravonia, N3 from Alex, quite heavy backlogs. The bike one going south from Buccleuch down towards Marlborough Drive stays fairly heavily delayed as well. Pretoria looking all right. Everything basically off the roads and it's got where it's got. A little bit of traffic pressure just on the bottom end of the Mopani Highway into Eskia and Pathleli. Durban stays heavy on the N2 coming north up past the cement factory. If you're driving up from the Umlazi Chatsworth area, queues passing cement factory towards the M7. Looks like an obstruction there. And then from the M7 up through the roadworks around Westwood Mall, that stays badly backed up. Cape Town, the N1 inbound, very slow this morning from Belleville through to the Sable Road exit, and the M7 or the N7 Jake Scoville Drive from Milton Road in the Goodwood area still very busy and clogged up towards Bosmansdam Road at Summer Greens. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
No rest for Tatiana. What, does she get a day off?
No, what's that? Well, let's see. You know, she's going to be, all eyes on her as she makes her day. Hopefully it's going to be a great one. We've also got eyes on Vicky van der Merwe. She's currently carrying our hopes for a triathlon medal. She's in action. Later in triathlon, we'll also have Henry Skuman and Jamie Riddle targeting triathlon glory. Now, Tatiana Smith, of course, 100-meter breaststroke victory. Now she's back in action, aiming for a rare double in the 200-meter breaststroke. We'll also have rowers John Smith and Christopher Baxter. They'll be competing in the semi-finals of the men's pairs. And Paige Badenhorst takes on the women's single scull semi-finals today. And of course, later tonight, don't miss the archery face-off at 7:15 between Vian Roux and Korea's De Joachim. And you can catch our hockey teams as well against Great Britain and Spain. Definitely a packed day for Team South Africa. Soccer action saw 2-time gold medalist Argentina joining Morocco and Egypt in securing their places in the quarterfinals of the men's Olympic football on the final day of the group stage yesterday. All 4 sides in Group B are tied on 3 points going into the last matches, but Javier Mascherano's Argentina, they qualified by beating Ukraine 2-0 in Lyon. Morocco eased through with a 3-0 victory against Iraq. Egypt reached the quarterfinals, completing the group stage with a 2-1 win over already qualified Spain. Closer to home, Kaizer Chiefs and Bafana defender Tefu Mashamaite says his newly founded Players Union plans. He wants to take a different approach when dealing with clubs. Mashamaite hopes the organisation can speak on behalf of footballers without creating a divide between the clubs and all parties involved. Speaking to SABC Sport, the 2015 PSL Footballer of the Year shared the challenges his association has had to grapple with.
It's a tough one, to be honest with you. We are busy now trying to finalize our registration with Department of Labour to make sure that we comply. So that's what we are busy with. We are trying to push our membership. I was supposed to mention this. We have a partnership with Lifeline South Africa, which is they focus on counselling, on issues that plague the psychological issues and stuff like that. And basically, in our first year, we're just looking to grow. And in the next 3, 4, 5 years, you never know. So that's what we are focusing on right now.
That's former Kaizer Chiefs and Bafana defender Tefu Mashamaite here on SAfm Breakfast. That's how we wrap it up. We'll have more sport around 12:30 with John Hediker. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAfm.
And Tawalang Lechela, good morning to you. Don't tell me Microsoft users hit by another global outage.
That's right. Now, the global outage mainly hit the US and UK, so we weren't involved. It lasted for about 10 hours overnight and affected Microsoft services like Outlook 365 and emails, as well as video games like Minecraft. Now, Microsoft confirmed that the issue has been resolved. In a preliminary investigation, the company said the outage was caused by a cyber attack and a failure to properly defend against it. This comes less than 2 weeks after a major global outage left about 8.5 million computers using Microsoft systems and inaccessible, impacting healthcare and travel after a flawed software update by cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike. Now, the news also comes alongside its second quarter update where earnings topped expectations. But when digging deeper, Microsoft's cloud unit disappointed investors with growth on that end falling short. Now, Microsoft is in a competitive race with the likes of Amazon and Google to capture the growing market for artificial intelligence workloads. The 3 tech giants are investing heavily in AI research and development to enhance their capabilities. And so slower growth there suggests that Microsoft could be falling behind its peers.
So the first one was the antivirus, and now there's hackers that broke in because...
Yes.
Okay. ShopRite and Woolies fighting for your pets.
Now, the fight to gain more market share in the pet care market is heating up, with both ShopRite's Checkers and Woolies beefing up their strategies. In an update, ShopRite confirmed that Checkers opened 33 new pet shop science stores in the year under review, bringing its total to 86 stores. Checkers was the first supermarket in South Africa to open a pet shop with a wide range of products at affordable prices. Soon after, Woolies followed suit by buying a majority stake, about 93% in Absolute Pets, a popular pet shop chain with around 150 locations across the country. Now, the deal was completed early this year, making Woolies a major player in that pet care market. And so we're seeing Checkers stepping up its game and increasing its presence with the new store openings. According to a Business Day article, the pet market is estimated at about 8 billion annually, highlighting significant consumer investment in the pet care market.
And what's happening in the numbers today?
Kicking things off with the local markets, lots for domestic traders to digest as earnings season heats up. Markets will be zooming in on Chemicals and Explosives Group AECI's earnings, as well as a trading update from Woolworths. In the currency scene, the rand has remained steady at 18.31 to the dollar. We'll probably see some more action on that front after the Fed's rates move. Over in Asia, markets on track to end the day in the green despite downbeat Chinese factory activity data. Markets on that in also digesting a surprise move from the Bank of Japan. Policymakers hiking rates for the second time in 17 years. The Japanese yen quite choppy post that move. Looking at the US now, futures in mixed territory, awaiting that all-important Fed decision out later tonight.
Thank you very much. More business coming out throughout the morning. Matantoling Lachela, we'll hear from you again tomorrow morning.
You are listening to John Gericka on SAfm.
Okay, it's a new feature. We're calling it Explain and Verify. So first of all, today we're talking about electricity, right? There's these ongoing electricity prices. Prices are increasing. There's extra levies and fees that are being put on top of our electricity. The Minister of Electricity, Dr. Josienso Ramakgopa, has moved to assure South Africans the department's committed to finding an enduring solution to the rising cost of electricity in South Africa. Let's hear what the minister had to say.
All over the world, it's not a South African phenomenon. You are going to find that in the pricing arrangement of electricity, the rich are subsidizing the poor. So a situation where you have a dispensation where people want to take more affluent suburbs and leave, if you like, the poor to municipalities and ESCOM is unsustainable. And that's why we are going to insist on that NERSA framework, and myself and the DM are committed to that. Find a framework that takes care of the interest of the poor, the marginalized, so that we don't deny them access to electricity. Protect the interest also of the affluent, because you can't get to a situation where the pricing structure is such that it becomes unaffordable over time. But also protect industry so that they become more competitive, or they don't become competitive as a result of the pricing structure. And that's a situation that we are seeing, and that's going to undermine the growth of the South African economy. So I want to say to the viewers at home, industry and everyone, the poor who have been experiencing this load reduction, we will work with the municipalities. We know what you are going through, and it is our collective intention to resolve this question.
All right, let's get reaction from Professor Samson Mampueli, Head of Energy Secretariat at Sanedi and energy expert as well. Prof, thanks for joining us. Your first reactions to what the Minister had to say.
Good morning to you and the listeners. So I'm very much close to what the Minister has said, because yesterday I spent about 5 hours of my time with the Minister and the Deputy Minister and other colleagues dealing with various issues around the energy aspects in South Africa, including the pricing. Actually, the pricing part is the one that took us quite a lot of time, looking at the various models that we can implement, working with various municipalities. So the Minister is quite right in saying what he has said. Unfortunately, at this point in time, I can't necessarily point to what kind of model will be adopted, because those are some of the internal discussions that are still taking place. But in the main, the Minister is pushing us to come up with a pricing model that will basically protect the poor and also ensure that the businesses thrive, or they get cheaper electricity going forward. We're looking at various models and various ways of electricity trading going forward in that particular respect.
Okay, break that down for us a little bit. People that with a lot of money have put up solar panels, they're using less electricity, less money is coming into the municipalities. Poor people that couldn't afford to do that are now suffering the consequences. So how do you balance that out?
Yeah, so that is one of the things that we looked at to say, how do we then deal with the issue of electricity trading, where the people with solar panels are able to even sell back to the municipalities.
Right.
How do we make sure that we come up with a model that will result in higher subsidies for the poor as a result of people selling electricity back to the municipalities? So those are some of the nitty-gritties that we're busy working on, so that when we have more and more people connected and selling electricity to the municipalities, it becomes a positive for the poor, as opposed to the current situation where they are kind of spectators in the game.
Prof, part of that is just the infrastructure just wasn't designed to handle the amount of people. There's many people we can blame for that. What would be the turnaround time, even if you started today saying, we're going to increase if we had all the money, we're going to increase the infrastructure. That's why load reduction is happening. There's just not enough infrastructure. What would the timeline be for all of this?
Yeah, it's difficult to tell in terms of the timeline. What we agreed yesterday with the minister and the deputy minister was that we need to first establish a proper model, and ESCOM was also in the meeting and other role players as well. And then once we agree on that proper model, we then implement it as a pilot, and the minister will unpack those details at the right time. And once that pilot has been proven to be successful, we will then roll it over to other areas. The infrastructure part, it's a big issue, and it's something that the minister is very much seized with, and the deputy minister, and they will be working closely with municipalities, because what we have established is the fact that when the municipalities collect the revenue that they get for this electricity, some of them don't even pay ESCOM for the bulk electricity that they get from ESCOM, because they've got other pressing municipal services that they then redirect that money to. So the model that we're looking at is a model that will allow them to be able to pay back the money for ESCOM. They will be able to then service the infrastructure and still be able to have a bit of money to be able to deliver other services. Because most of these municipalities are getting most of their revenues from selling electricity.
Does the Minister of Electricity oversee what the municipalities are doing in getting electricity to my house?
He does not necessarily oversee that. It's another issue that we basically discussed. Because the municipalities are kind of autonomous when it comes to provision of electricity services. But in a situation where you've got a kind of challenges, the minister and the deputy minister can come on board and assist municipalities through various structures, such as your SALGA and other relevant entities. So that I envisage that those will be some of the instruments that the minister will be able to utilize. In what I foresee happening in most cases is that the minister can be able to direct in terms of the various programs that can be implemented at municipality level, and then it will then be up to the municipalities themselves to look at the interventions and say this can help us, and then we can then easily adopt it even without the minister getting very much involved in what they need to do.
One issue you mentioned about municipalities not paying ESCOM, there is the issue of residents and businesses not paying for the electricity that they're using and stolen electricity. Solutions to that?
Yeah, that's a big issue. We recently had the amendment to the Electricity Regulation Act that basically says that people who are found to be stealing electricity can be jailed for more than 20 years and things like that. Those are some of the interventions that the government is putting in place. And that for me is one of the biggest issues. We have the bigger problem of electricity theft in informal settlements, for instance, where people connect illegally. Some of the recommendations that we're putting forward is that some of these settlements, it's not like people are unable to pay, because people are still paying some minimum amount to the people who are connecting illegally to the ESCOM and municipal lines. So the recommendation is that those people should be connected, and then they must be put into the correct tariffs, and so that they can be able to pay for these electricity services going forward. But there is no kind of magic bullet in solving that kind of a problem. The government is looking at various options, to say how do we then deal with this particular problem going forward. The smart meters that are being rolled out now, they work much better than the old meters, because when you don't buy electricity, the municipality and ESCOM can detect that you are not buying electricity, but you seem to be using electricity. Soon people will be very much in big trouble with the law if they don't buy electricity.
Yeah, then the city charges us $200 just for a levy if I put my smart meter in.
Yeah, so that one is it's a historical issue because the electricity tariffs were not necessarily cost reflective for quite a long time. So what was happening is that you would pay for the kilowatt hours that you use, yes, but you wouldn't necessarily pay for the line that is coming to your house. You wouldn't pay for the grid that you have, the distribution lines that we have within the municipal area, and that then meant that there was not enough money to service the lines that are going into people's houses and businesses, to service the municipal infrastructure, transformers, and all those other things that are part of the bigger package that is providing you with that particular service. That's why municipalities came up with this thing of the 200 rand once off fee. Once you reach a certain amount of kilowatt hours, I think it's around 860 kilowatt hours per purchase or so.
Prof. Samson Mampweli, thank you very much. Head of Energy Secretariat at Sanedi and an energy expert. What do you make of that?
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
There's been a crash on Joburg's N3 South at Van Buren, and very quickly the traffic piling back in towards Galuli's interchange. If you're heading up towards Midrand off the highways, just factor in some proper queue time. The N3 North from Limbro Park up onto that N1 North ramp, and the N1 from Rivonia into Buccleuch for a turn up towards Allendale, heavily backed up as well. The issue is on the ramp, not up on the main carriageway, and that ramp from those highways onto the N1 North. Two sets of roadworks delaying traffic on the route to the airport from Pretoria, one at Clayville, another section of roadworks just down by the Benoni exit causing some delays. Durban's N2 is eased from Umlazi Chatsworth area up to Cement Factory, but from the M7 it stays very heavy through to the Westwood Mall. If you're just joining us and looking for updates on the South Coast, it is all open. Very light traffic this morning, but no disruption. Port Shepstone through Isn't-Gulweni and Port Shepstone down through Margate and on towards the Eastern Cape border along the R61. That's flowing nicely as well. Cape Town N1 fairly heavy from Plattekloof Hill through to Sable Road. There may still be some restrictions around that Sable off-ramp that's holding everything up, and then past that through Kubo interchange to the elevated freeway to the city centre. It's quite busy. Clipfontein Road out of Athlone through the M5 into Mowbray is busy, and the N2 still under quite a bit of pressure for this time on a Wednesday from Bunga Avenue from Langa all the way through to Hospital Bends. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
You are listening to John Gericka on SAfm. Call us on 086 000 2032.
With respect to the Minister of Electricity, all these plans that he's announcing will never make a dent for as long as they allow gangsters to sell our electricity illegally and make millions, while the loyal ESCOM customer is being punished every year with this crazy, ridiculous tariff hikes. Going to any township now or plots, you'll see illegal connections hidden in plain sight. Authorities drive all over these places. They look at these big wires that are connected precariously, crisscrossing the houses, the streets. They do absolutely nothing about it. And then they come here to tell us about the grand plans, which will amount to nothing for as long as you don't deal with these gangs who are stealing our electricity in broad daylight.
Good morning, SAfm. Just Paul here from Cape Town. About the electricity issue, you know, the people with the solar panels, they got more than enough electricity. Why don't they let them pump it back into the municipal lines, and then the municipality can give all the poor people free electricity, you know? So the people who has extra electricity, let them not sell it to the municipality. They give it to the municipality for free, otherwise they lose it anyway. And then the municipality gives it to the poor people for free. I mean, it's a win-win, you know? It's always a win-win if the government gets less money. Don't you think? Thank you.
Yeah, I've got solar panels. I'm happy to... as you say, the electricity just goes to waste. It just doesn't charge your battery anymore after... Well, mine's about midday. My batteries are charged. And it just sits there and really collects heat. Randall, Kenton-on-Sea, how's it?
I am good, man.
Excellent.
Brenton on Sea,
Brenton on Sea. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, this energy minister comes and speaks so well about, we got this grand plan, that grand plan. Bloody hell. What happened to the money that was stolen? If they can go after the money, we don't have to charge all this extra 200 and all of that. There was billions stolen from Eskom and all those bloody places. Now he comes and, please, here he asked that man not to insult our intelligence, man. What's wrong with him? Go after the money and leave us. We're already struggling. Cut half of their bloody salaries.
Randall
Bye-bye.
in Brenton-on-Sea. Go find the money, he says. And Sikelelo in East London, how's it?
I'm very well, thank you, sir. How are you?
Excellent. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to make a comment with regards to, or a suggestion rather, with regards to the SDR grants. You had a gentleman earlier stating the fact that there's mass exclusion of individuals because there's a requirement for HD pictures and smartphones and so on.
Yes.
So for them to be recognized and eliminate fraud. So I had a suggestion that look, why can't the SASSA department, social grant department, basically link up with the likes of your Capitex, private entities that already have those facilities, and you get a Capitec in almost every town or city currently. And you see this by the number of queues that they have, that a lot of people are now banking with Capitec, and they've got that facial recognition technology, the fingerprint technology, and just collaborate with them and get that data quickly into the system, and possibly even use them as a form of entity that can, they can deposit the money into, and the people can draw it from there. And I think it will solve a lot of people's problems.
Yeah, and not necessarily just the one bank. Why don't we include all the banks? If your local bank is an FNB or a Standard Bank or something, part of the issue is the travel, and I get that. But surely to get cash, you're going to have to travel anyway, right?
No, definitely. And I mentioned Capitec because they're the ones that I've seen that got that facial recognition thing when you open up an account. If FNB is linked to Home Affairs, if I'm not mistaken, they can quickly, you can do your notice and all of that. So, and there's a strip mall in almost every village now and every township. Maybe not all, but there's accessibility to stores, and there's banks there. Because even the indigenous people still bank somewhere, somehow. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
a lot of them don't, but this is not a bad way to get them started and make sure that their money is safe and secure.
No, most definitely. And then we'll have some form of tracking and accountability in terms of who's who, where are they, and who's drawn from the money. Right now, it's just no different than handing a brown envelope to a person.
In Sikelelo in East London, but it seems like a simple solution. Yeah. Cassius is in Bloemfontein. Hi.
My brother.
Yes, my brother.
Good morning. I'm going to use this metaphor. I want to thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to use this metaphor. I spoke to the minister the night before yesterday.
Yes.
And I'm going to use the minister as water in this metaphor. When I was a young boy, we used to catch mice. If you went into a home, we'd pour water and it would come out. Sentlek is going to come out. We're going to get the CEO of Sentlek. The minister has been working around the clock with the lady Penny who's working in the president's office to get these people out of the hole. They are killing us, this Sentlek. I want to applaud the minister. He acted. So these people who are talking anything, they should first test if the person is doing his job. He is doing his job, and I thank him. After I spoke to him on radio, you know what? He phoned me. He phoned me because he cares, and he does his job. Not the people who are sitting there taking our money, lying in their pockets, and making us beg them to do the job that they are instructed to do. Thank you, my brother.
Okay, just before you go, that's why I asked the question about how much say does the minister have over the municipalities? Because if he can change the municipalities, which is where these extra tariffs seem to be coming from, that'll make our lives better, won't it?
It would. It would. Because, you know, the CEO of Centrec, one cannot get hold of him. When you get to the gate, you get the security. When you go to the offices, you don't get to get the CEO. Either he has given an instruction that his office is not accessible, or he is this person. He changes. These people, when they hold high offices, because maybe of their connections within the governing bodies, that they will think nobody will touch them. They become untouchable. This CEO and the lady called Lindiweke Kalani from Centrec, they are messing up Centrec.
Cassius in Bloemfontein, we're out of time. I think your message is well made. Thank you very much for listening as well. It's been a pleasure to be with you today, if not challenging. Learn something new every single day. And I'm more than happy to learn. Don't get me wrong. And I'm being criticized on Twitter, which is fine. Sometimes I make a mistake, and I'm happy to be corrected. It's 9 o'clock. You're with SAfm. Kathy's up next.
In our top stories, 5 suspected criminals killed in KwaZulu-Natal, and Hamas reacts to death of its leader Ismail Haniyeh. Good morning. 5 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police at Cato Crest in Durban. KwaZulu-Natal police confirmed the suspects have been wanted for a string of murder and business robbery cases. Police spokesperson Robert Nechihunda says the group was cornered at a rental flat by police last night when a shootout ensued.
The suspects opened fire towards the law enforcement officers through the windows. A shootout ensued, and after the ceasefire, 5 suspects were found to have sustained fatal gunshot wounds. An AK-47 assault rifle, 3 handguns and drugs were found in the possession of the suspects. The suspects had been positively linked with 4 counts of murder, 13 cases of business robbery, and another case of carjacking which were committed in the vicinity of Ketomena and Durban Central.
Hamas has vowed to punish those responsible for the death of its leader Ismail Haniyeh, killed in an Israeli raid on his residence in the Iranian capital, Tehran. Haniyeh was in Iran for the inauguration of the Iranian president. The BBC's Yolanda Nell has more.
Last night, Ismail Haniyeh, who was from Gaza but had lived in Qatar for several years, was with the heads of other regional armed groups backed by Iran at a ceremony for the swearing-in of the country's new president. Few details have been given about the attack which killed him and a bodyguard, but it would have been carefully planned. Israel's military says it doesn't comment on reports in foreign media. But one Hamas official has called this assassination a grave escalation. It's unclear as yet what effect this will have on the course of the war in Gaza. But Ismail Haniyeh had been overseeing talks on a new ceasefire and hostage release deal.
Disciplinary proceedings at the Pretoria High School for Girls are expected to conclude today. This follows allegations of suspected racism that led to the suspension of the 12 learners. On the first day of the proceedings, the department took swift action by removing 8 of the 12 suspended learners who held prefect positions from their leadership roles. Gauteng Education MEC Matome Chilwane, who attended the proceedings yesterday, says the school's principal has been suspended for a period of 3 months, pending the outcome of an investigation.
The principal knew about this matter from last year, 2023. There was a report, and there was no action taken then. That's where we are with the principal, that you knew, and you knew the gravity of this situation, and you left it. So this is where we are with the principal. Yes, I'm worried that one of the learners, some of them are matriculants, but we will have a program. There should be a program that's structured around how the learner is supported outside the process. But they should be understood that there is always repercussion for action.
Job creation and ending the scourge of gangsterism on the Cape Flats are some of the burning issues the people of the Western Cape will expect to hear about during the Premier's opening of Parliament address today. Western Cape Premier Alan Winde is expected to announce his plans for his second term as leader in government of the only DA-run province in the country. Tandiswa Mau reports.
The opening of Parliament happens as the province is again declared a disaster area following recent floods that damaged infrastructure. A second declaration in months. It's a province that has the lowest unemployment rate at just over 21% compared to the national average of 43%. The province has been hailed for its sustainable energy strategy, which will ensure a future of secure supply of clean, reliable energy. But it is also a province ravaged by gangsterism, extortion, housing backlogs, and perceptions of catering only for the needs of the wealthy.
And finally, Professor at Wits University's African Centre for Migration and Society, Lauren Landu, says urgent service delivery reforms are required to sustain the country's growing population. According to Stats SA's latest mid-year population estimates report released yesterday, the country's population has now surpassed 63 million. The country's population has grown by nearly 836,000 people, representing a 1.33% increase between July 2023 and July 2024. Landu elaborates.
The challenges that we have around unemployment, the challenges we have around poverty, are because we have people whose needs have not been addressed, who don't have opportunity. So I think what we need to do is think very pragmatic about what would it take. We're not going to stop people from having children. We're going to not stop people from moving. We need to think about in economy, we need to think about housing, healthcare, education that can suit the population that we have, not necessarily the population that we want. And that requires a very different kind of planning, one really based on numbers and one that is quite urgent.
Recapping the top story, 5 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police at Cato Crest in Durban. KwaZulu-Natal police confirmed the suspects have been wanted for a string of murder and business robbery cases. For SAfm News, I am Anne Musa.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Askis my family, man.
This F-bomb brought to you by Sanlam.
A 13th chick is most a 13th chick, nah? But stop going boss with the spending like the 14th and 15th chick is still coming in the mail. Is this a party, ne?
Finances is not a dirty word. Let's talk about it, Mzansi. Find out how at livewithconfidence.co.za. Sanlam. Sanlam Life is a licensed life insurer, financial services and registered credit provider.
When Freddie, a troubled woman, is nearly assaulted outside a nightclub, the toilet attendant steps in to help. Baba, a former child soldier, acts with swift, unstoppable brutality. She's entranced. The pair form an instant, intoxicating connection. Something dark within both of them quickly emerges. Soon, they set about exacting revenge on people from Freddie's past. Baba's skill for violence and Freddie's tinge of psychopathy prove a lethal combination. But they are not the only ones on the hunt. We hunt together, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on S3. Starts 24th of July. Channel your best drama with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up.
S3.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
The thing about fighting for freedom and democracy, or for anything, is that it cannot be outsourced. You have to be present. So I packed my bag and I kissed my wife and my daughters goodbye. And I cried the entire journey back to Zimbabwe. I was arrested immediately on arrival at the airport and went straight back to the maximum security prison where the torture resumed. Why did I go back, you may ask? Because that is what you do. You go back and you serve. There is no guarantee that sometimes it will work. Secondly, remember that you have courage. Everyone has courage. What's usually missing is knowing the thing that we care so deeply about that we are willing to stare down a military tanker or look down the barrel of an AK-47. In those jail cells, I found my courage. So I continued the work, and I was arrested.